class, module number 5, lecture number 9 of governance today. Good evening. Not slightly longer. We had started our discussion about political parties, mainly the different types of political systems, political parties in the world. We discussed about the ideologies, left versus right, how our left and right ideology is different, how the extreme of both are wrong. These are not mainly that important from the exam point of view, but these are the words that you usually might see in TV debates, news media, etc. Then we started a discussion about the first step of making a party, that is registering the political party. RPA 1951 gives this power to the Election Commission of India to register the political parties. You just have to fulfill certain paperwork, certain formalities to get your party registered. India right now has the largest number of registered parties in the entire world. Then we also discussed about the donation part, the electoral bond scheme that we have, which has been introduced since 2017. The objective was to make it more transparent to get funds into the politics, but it has also been debated quite a lot. Then we discuss about the next step after registration, that is recognition of parties. For recognition, you need to fight elections, you need to fulfill certain criteria to become either a national or a state political party. We discussed about those criteria, and then we came to the benefits also. These are the benefits, as we discussed, the recognized parties get, which the registered parties don't get. If you're a national recognized party, you get these benefits all across India in any election. If you're a state recognized party, then you get these benefits in the state election. Then we started our discussion about the comparison of the constitution. We went into a lot of detail of the American one, and the others we discussed in brief. The American constitution, very brief, very short, because the states have their own constitution. World's first written constitution talks about how we will have separate powers for center and the state. Every state in America has its own separate constitution. The Union Constitution of America is extremely rigid, very, very difficult to amend. That is why close to 250 years of their history, they have only had 27 amendments so far. Then they also have separation of powers between the different organs of the government. They also have the concept of fundamental rights. Their constitution is supreme, just like us. Just like India, they have a concept of checks and balances, legislative, executive, judiciary, trying to keep a check on each other. And the states are indestructible, meaning that the center government just cannot change the border or the name of the states just whenever they want. We discussed about the different houses, lower house and the upper house being extremely strong, Senate having a lot of powers unlike the other countries. Then we discussed about the president of the US, minimum age 35, should be a natural born citizen, meaning that should be a citizen of America by birth and not by any other method. The person should also be residing in the US for at least 14 years. The election of the president and the vice president are held simultaneously. We discussed about the election process as well. We discussed about the removal then. The removal process is slightly different. In America, the word impeachment does not really mean removal. In India, it does mean removal. It is a two-step process in the US, starts at the lower house. If it passes in the lower house, you say the president has been impeached. In the upper house, that is the Senate, where the real trial begins, the real investigation, interrogation will happen, and the Senate will decide whether the president of America has to be removed or not. Then we discuss about the legislative process, how joint sitting is different. In their joint sitting, they have equal number of members from both the houses, how their president has slightly different powers, how the qualified veto is different as compared to suspensive veto, how pocket veto is different, because in America, there is a time limit on the president of America to sign on the bill. We then discuss about the British Constitution. It is an unwritten constitution. So there is no one specific book that is called as the British Constitution. British Constitution is said to be just a collection of all the different laws that we have, the Magna Carta, the conventions, the laws that have been passed by the parliament, the judiciary, etc. They also have parliamentary form of government, just like India, constitutional monarchy, no states, no provinces, so it's a unitary constitution. Very flexible, there is no special method to amend the constitution of Britain. And Britain, interestingly, has parliamentary supremacy because Britain does not have any constitutional judicial review. The Supreme Court cannot strike down the law once it has been passed by the Parliament of Britain. The French Constitution, also called as the Fifth Republic, which is the fifth Republican Constitution right now. They have experimented quite a lot. They have a semi-presidential form of government. President is elected directly, but they also have prime ministers and the ministers, which are members of the parliament only. It is said to be the most powerful president in all the democracies because the president of France can make laws on a lot of things. Parliament, on the other hand, can make rules on very slight more number of things. It's again a unitary constitution. France does not have any states or provinces. Two methods to amend the constitution of France: either the parliament passes it, or you have a referendum. President of France can ask the people of France to vote and have a referendum. We discussed about some of the other things in Australian constitution then. Australian constitution, again, following a parliamentary form of government like India. Australia is not a republican or not a republic. It's a dominion state till today. British monarch is still the monarch of Australia. Just like our president, Australia has something called the Governor General, who signs on the bill, usually on the advice of the Council of Ministers. They have their own state governors that also have to bind by the advice given to them. Again, Australian constitution extremely rigid because it's a two-step process. First, the parliament has to amend, and then there has to be a referendum. That is why in the last 123 years, only 8 amendments have been done in the Australian constitution, proving how difficult it is to amend the Australian constitution. Then we discussed a couple of practice questions here, and this is where we were. So now we come to the beginning of the last module of governance, module number 5, and this is what we'll be discussing. I quickly take up just a very few questions so that we are not late to begin. Lyren has a question. Can't India also implement indestructible union and indestructible states? If your question is, can India do that? We can, obviously. But if your question is, will India do that? Most probably not. Indestructible states means giving a lot of power to the states. Our federal structure is not like that. Our federal structure is always that the center government always has more power. The parliament will decide about the state. So Deepta is asking, can the president of the US take on his own decisions about signing international agreements? All are required to be approved by the Senate. So Deepta, any international agreement signed by the American president has to be ratified by the Senate before it comes into force. The same is in India. In case of India also, if the Prime Minister of India goes anywhere, signs an agreement, that international treaty has to be ratified by our parliament. Similarly, in America, it is the upper house that has to ratify that, only then it will come into force. Okay, let's go ahead then. Today, module number 9 of governance, we will be talking about you and your future. Your future, why? Because today we'll be discussing about civil services, the role of civil services, what do the civil servants do, what are they expected to do, what are the problems in India's civil services as a structure, what are the reforms that can be suggested, what is lateral entry, and also we will be discussing about the UPSC and state PSC as a constitutional body. What do they do? What do they not do? And are there any new government initiatives that have been introduced to improve the working of the civil services? In this, we'll be discussing about the Karmayogi mission of the government of India. So all these things packed up in today's module, module number 9. Let's go ahead without any further delay then. Let's start with a body that all of you have been dreaming about. I'm sure all of you in your dreams, sometimes you get this building in your dreams, right? Especially if you're in Delhi or if you have been in Delhi, this building usually comes to your dream. It's in Shah Jahan Road, nearby Connaught Place, if you're aware of Delhi. This is where you would go to have your interview. And obviously, when you go for your interview, you will click a photo outside of it in your formals or sari and have this at the background. Now, the one misconception that many people have, which will be broken today, is many of the aspirants, including yourself, assume that the role of UPSC in your life will end after this exam. No. If you do become a civil servant, role of UPSC or UPSC will be attached to your life through your entire career. It's not just about recruiting. Even when you are working, even when government of India has to take some action against you or in your favor, UPSC always comes into the picture. We'll discuss about that as well. Let's first go ahead and read about the constitutional body. So there are three similar bodies to conduct these kind of examinations, the one that you're preparing for, because of which you and me have met in this life. There is something called the UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. Union Public Service Commission. Then we have something called State Public Service Commission. That is of individual states. If you're living in Jharkhand, you have a Jharkhand Public Service Commission, you have a Gujarat Public Service Commission, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Punjab, Himachal, UP. Wherever you are living, you have your own State Public Service Commission. Then we also have something called JPSC. JPSC stands for Joint Public Service Commission. So there are three of these public service commissions in India. The UPSC being the national body, State PSC being a body for individual states, and then we also have a provision for JPSC. These two, the UPSC and the State PSC, these two are constitutional bodies. These two are constitutional bodies. So Constitution of India has created these bodies. They have a constitutional structure. JPSC, on the other hand, if it is created, this will be a statutory body. This will be a statutory body. Let's try and understand the difference between the two. UPSC, you all are aware of, to conduct the government examinations. Which government exams do they conduct? As I told earlier as well, when you join the government service, when you join the public services, there are different levels of jobs. There are Group A jobs, or Group A post. There is Group B, Group C, D, etc. To conduct exam for Group A post of the Government of India, that is a responsibility of the UPSC. So UPSC conducts the examination for the topmost jobs in the Government of India. Similarly, for the government of the state, when they have to recruit, the State Public Service Commission, the State PCS does it. What about a Joint Public Service Commission? What is the logic behind it? Let's try and understand this. The Constitution of India says if two or more than two states together want a joint public service commission for their state, that they don't want to have a separate commission, they want to have a joint commission, then they can request the parliament for this. So basically, they have to request the parliament. Two or more than two states request the parliament to create a joint public service commission. The parliament can pass a law, and that is how this is created. This is why it is called a statutory body. This is why it is called a statutory body. Again, the statutory body means a body that has been passed by the act of the parliament. So if a joint public service commission is created, it will be a statutory body. Let's take an example. Why do these bodies get created? Or why is it that any state would want a joint public service commission? Usually it happens when a new state has been formed. Let's take an example. In 1966, Haryana came into being. Haryana became a new state, was carved out of Punjab. From the Punjab, Hindi-speaking areas were carved out, and it became Haryana. Haryana, because it was just a new body, just a new state, they did not have their own public service commission. So what they did was, they requested the parliament along with Punjab that please give us a joint public service commission. So parliament passed a law to make a joint public service commission for Haryana and Punjab. It was just for a few years. After that, Haryana created their own public service commission. So JPSC was dissolved. Now we don't have any JPSC right now. But it may happen, usually with the formation of the states. But that is not always the case. When Telangana came into being, they did not want any joint public service commission. They created theirs within a few weeks. So it's not necessary, but it may happen that a state may not want to have all these people, especially for their recruitment. So they may ask the parliament to have a joint public service commission. Now, let's look at the constitution or the composition of these bodies. How does it work? Now, if you look at the composition, the Constitution of India does not mention how many members there will be. Constitution has no mention of number of members. Constitution does not say how many members there will be. Constitution just says there will be a president and members. Or sorry, there will be a chairman and members. How many members? Not mentioned. Usually, there are 9 to 11 members. Usually. 9 to 11 members usually. But again, no mention how many members will there be. What about the appointment part? For JPSC, that is a Joint Public Service Commission, because 2 or more than 2 states are involved, and the UPSC, appointment is done by the President of India. President of India just is given some names by the Union Council of Ministers. They will give names of officers that they like, and based on those names, the President of India will appoint the members of the UPSC or the Joint Public Service Commission. For respective individual state public service commissions, their governor will appoint. That is the appointment part. Over here, I would like to mention something very interesting. Usually, you will see there's a trend in the government bodies. The trend is, in most cases, the appointing authority and the removal authority are the same. In most cases, appointing authority and the removal authority are the same. So if the president appoints you, the president can remove you. If the governor appoints you, the governor can remove you. That is a usual case. But there is an exception to this. An exception is the State Public Service Commission. Why? Because their appointment is done by the governor, but their removal is done by the President of India. Their removal is done by President of India. There are 2 such exceptions. One, State PSC, and other State Human Rights Commission. The State PSC and State Human Rights Commission, you usually see these bodies as an exception, because usually appointing authority, removal authority remain the same. But over here, appointing authority is a governor, while the removal authority is the President of India. Do remember this fact. It may come in handy for the prelims exam. Now, the Constitution of India, as I said, does not mention how many members will there be in UPSC or State PSC. Usually, 9 to 11 members are seen. There is not even any qualification that is given. The Constitution doesn't say what will be the qualification, who can be the members. The Constitution just says one thing. The Constitution says at least half of the members of the Commission should be those who have held an office under the Government of India or Government of State for at least 10 years. Again, listen to this carefully. Number of members not mentioned. Qualification not mentioned. The only condition it talks about is at least half of the members should be those who have served either under Government of India or Government of a state for at least 10 years. It does not even say at what post. Do you see this? They don't even say at what post should they have served. Nothing. So usually, who are these people? For example, if you go to UPSC website and you can see the members in the commission, usually who are these people? So usually these are bureaucrats, IAS officers, IPS, IRS, IFS, etc. Interestingly, UPSC also has many retired people from the armed forces. So you might see some person retired from very high post in Army or Air Force or Navy being members here. Then you also have many academicians, professors in very famous universities, lecturers in famous universities, those are also appointed. So usually these are the people who are appointed over here. On the other hand, what about the tenure? What about the age of retirement? All of them have a tenure of 6 years. So UPSC also and State PSC also, the tenure is 6 years. The retirement age, however, is different. At the state level, the retirement age is 62. State and the JPSC, both of these, retirement age is 62. At the center level, the UPSC chairperson or member, retirement age is 65. Again, the tenure is the same. The retirement age is different. You don't need to remember the salary as such. Not that important. The removal process, we have been studying this since day one. Since day one of governance, I've been telling you how removal of UPSC members is the same as many others. CIC, CVC removal, Lokpal removal, NHRC removal, all of these are the same. The President of India can remove, but the President of India will have to ask for the Supreme Court to first conduct an inquiry. Supreme Court will have to see if the person is insolvent, means bankrupt, if the person has any other paid employment, infirmity of mind, misbehavior like corruption, etc. All these are grounds. If Supreme Court finds them to be true, then the Supreme Court will ask the President of India to remove that person, and the person will be removed from the post. So removal process exactly the same for all of these. Now let's talk about some detailed provisions. How do they work? What are the powers, etc., etc. First, the Parliament can extend the powers of UPSC and JPSC. While on the other hand, state legislature, their powers can be increased by the, or they can increase the powers of the State Public Service Commission. Now, what exactly are this increase in powers? As I said, the UPSC mainly conducts the examination for the Group A services of the Government of India. Apart from that, we have other services of the Government of India, like we have SSC. SSC conducts the examination, for example, for Group B services. Let's assume for a moment that the Government of India thinks that SSC as a body is not working well. The papers get leaked time and time again. The result is never on time. Joining date is delayed. So let's assume the Parliament wants that from tomorrow, UPSC should conduct their exam as well. Rather than SSC conducting the exam, let's have the UPSC only conduct the examination for the SSC CGL as well. That's an example of extending the powers of UPSC. So UPSC's powers can be extended by the Parliament. Similar is the state concept. If at the state level, the state legislature wants, just a second guys. Similarly, at the state level, if the state legislature wants, they may increase the powers of their State Public Service Commission. Powers can be with respect to what are the examination that they may be conducted. Powers can be with respect to how do they work. All these things come within the power of the state PCS. Their powers can be extended by the state legislature. Their salary is a charge expenditure. You know what is a charge expenditure? Not votable by the Parliament. Not votable by the Parliament. So that their independence can be ensured. So that the Parliament does not have to time and time again vote for their salary. Their salary automatically comes in at the set time period. That is called a charge expenditure. Then, similarly, they also prepare the reports, as we have been saying with all the other government bodies, preparation of annual reports. So UPSC, their reports are submitted to the President of India. State PCS, they submit their reports to the governor. JPSC submit the reports to all the governors for which it is working. So let's say one report to Governor of Haryana, one report to Governor of Punjab about their states. Whatever work they have done throughout the entire year, examination, any other advice they have given to the Government of India or the government of the state, all of that will be put in a report, in an annual report, given to the President. President will give it to the Parliament for discussion, or they'll get to the governor at the state level, and the governor will then give it to the state legislature to discuss the annual report. Now coming to the important part. What are the functions of these public service commissions? There are mainly two types of function that they are required to perform. One is mandatory, something that they have to do no matter what. That is conducting this exam. So mainly conducting the UPSC exam. That is their mandatory function. This is something that they have to do year and year again. Otherwise, you and me, there's no point of you being here or me being here. So it is compulsory that they have to conduct the examination. Then there is a advisory function as well. Now, what do you mean by advisory functions? As I said in the beginning of the class when we were introducing this topic, if you become an IAS officer, and I really hope that all of you will, so that I have many people that I know. So if you become an IAS officer, what happens is throughout your entire tenure, UPSC will have a major role to play. I'll give you an example. Some of you might be surprised to know this. Once you become an officer, any officer, it may be IAS, it may be IPS, it may be foreign service, it may be revenue service, postal service, railway service, doesn't really matter. When you become an IAS officer or any of the central service officer, do you know the government can transfer you to other service as well? There is no rule stopping the government from doing that. For example, let us assume that you are an IPS officer, Indian Police Service officer. The government can still make you India's ambassador to the US. There is no rule that prevents the government from doing that. If the government thinks that you are the best person suitable for the job to be a diplomat rather than being in the police, they can do that. There is no law that prevents them. So it usually does happen. For example, there are many IPS officers that have been asked to go on foreign postings. There are many IAS officers who have been asked to become India's representative to the UN, which is usually an IFS post. So there is no stopping the government from doing that. There is no rule like that. Because at the end of the day, the government has the responsibility to bring the best out of you. If the government thinks you can be better utilized or your skills can be better utilized somewhere else, they can transfer you no matter what. There is not really a problem. This is where the UPSC advisory functions will come in. So basically, in simple terms, the government of India will ask for the advice of UPSC. They will ask for the advice that we are thinking this IPS officer is better suitable for being a diplomat. Do you think we should transfer him, make India's ambassador? That is where UPSC will give the advice. What is the advice worth? Nothing. Because again, the advice is never binding on the government anyway. So they will be asked for advice, but again, doesn't really matter because they will do whatever they want. The government, if they had decided already that we will transfer you, then they will transfer you no matter what UPSC says. I'll give you one more example of what UPSC does. So basically, let's assume the government of India wants to take some action against you because you did something wrong, because there's something that you did not really interpret, or there's something wrong that you did in your service, and government wants to take some action against you. In that case, also the government of India will ask for the advice of the UPSC. Any disciplinary action to be taken, that you did something wrong and the government wants to take some action, whatever, they will ask for UPSC's advice. But again, the UPSC is not bound that their advice will be accepted by the government. Whatever advice they give, the government decides what is best for them at the end of the day. This is a detailed version of the functions. So first function, as I said, is a mandatory function that they're supposed to do. Supposed to conduct the examination no matter what. Not just this. The interesting part is, if the UPSC has been asked to assist by the states. Now listen to this very carefully. If the UPSC has been asked to assist by 2 or more states in their own recruitment, because let's say they have not been able to do that. For example, let's say they have not been able to make sure that the exam is conducted properly. State PCS doesn't know how to check the copies. They don't know how to set the syllabus, etc. So if the UPSC is requested by a couple of states or more than a couple of states that please help us, they can help them as well. They will go ahead and help them in their case if they want that, okay, we will help you for 1-2 years so that you can learn from our expertise. These are the mandatory functions that the UPSC must perform no matter what. Then there are advisory functions where they are asked for advice from the government. For example, if the government is recruiting just a few people, 5-10 people at some higher positions, even then the government will ask for UPSC advice that how should we conduct interview, what ads should we get, etc. So even for higher level, whenever any recruitment is happening, the government will ask for their advice. The government will ask for their advice when it comes to transfers, promotion, appointment, and transfer, etc. As I just told you, when the government has to take action in favor of you, promote you, or against you in both the cases, the government will ask for your advice. If the government has to take disciplinary action, then again they will ask for the advice of the UPSC. Again, these advices are never binding on the government. These are not binding on the government. These are just advice. These are not binding on the government. Do remember that. Now, this table is extremely important for your prelims examination. If you look at your M. Lakshmikant book, it has a chapter on UPSC, it has a chapter on state public service commissions. They have given this information in the form of a paragraph, which becomes more difficult for you to understand. So what I have done here is I have converted this into a form of a table so that it is easier for you to understand. What is the table all about? So basically, let me try and give it a easier heading. What can they do after their tenure is over? What can they do after their tenure is over? Simple question. So these four people, what can they do after their tenure is over? Also, the provision of state PSC will apply to Joint Public Service Commission as well. So whatever is applicable for state PSC is applicable for Joint Public Service Commission as well. Let's see. First, UPSC chairperson. If the tenure of the UPSC chairperson is over, 6 years are done, but they are not 65 years of age till, what can they do? Nothing. No government job is available to them. So once the UPSC chairperson completes a tenure, that means the UPSC chairperson is not eligible to have any other government job after that, not even the same post for one more tenure. No. You can be a UPSC chairperson only for one tenure, 6 years, then you are done. Second, the UPSC members. If you look at the UPSC members, once their tenure is over, then what happens? Once their tenure is over, they can either become a UPSC chairperson or they can become a state PSC chairperson. These are the only two things they can do, nothing apart from that. So again, the table tells you what can you do after your tenure is over, considering that your retirement age has still not come. This is the thing that you can do. Then, if you completed your tenure as a state PCS chairman, then what do? If you are a state PCS chairman after your tenure is over, you can either become a UPSC chairman or you can become a state PCS chairman for some other state. For example, let's say you are the state PCS chairman for Tamil Nadu, your tenure is over, then what can you do? You can go ahead and now become a chairman for Kerala state PCS or Karnataka state PCS or any other, Punjab state PCS, UP state PCS, whatever. So state PCS chairman after retiring can have one more tenure as a chairman, but of some other state public service commission. Or they can either become a UPSC member as well. In the end, what about state PSC members? State PSC members after tenure is over can become UPSC chairperson, can become state PCS chairperson, or they can become UPSC members. Again, the book M. Lakshmikant will not give you this information in the form of a table. They have given this information in the form of a paragraph. If you are more comfortable with that, you can read that. This is our attempt to make it easier for you. So if you think this is an easier form, you can go ahead with that. Whatever you do, please try and make sure. Also, some people have a confusion. Is it called PCS or PSC? It is all the same. Don't be confused. The Constitution says Public Service Commission, so we'll use this. But anyone who says PCS, the same thing. Don't really confuse yourself. It's the same thing. So these are the things that the members or the chairperson can do once their tenure is over, tenure of 6 years, provided that they are still not retired. If they're retired, then obviously that is gone. But if they're still not retired, they're still, let's say, 61, 62 only, the tenure is over, then they can come up and have these posts as well. Now, if you look at the issues in the working of these PCS, we are talking about the issues of both UPSC and the state PCS, all of them together. There are certain issues that are usually recurrent in the working, because of which many people have also criticized the UPSC and the state PCS. Look at what are these issues. First, government does not accept many of the recommendations except the recruitment one. Thankfully for you, till now at least they're accepting the recruitment one, but you never know what changes next, right? So except the recruitment one, usually they don't, the government is increasingly rejecting the recommendations given. The recruitment one, that is, we have recruited these many people, let's give them the job, they accept those usually. But other ones, they are usually deviating from that. Number one. Second, PCS applies one size fits all approach to all sorts. Now, what does it mean? See, the UPSC examination, how they conduct the examination, the eligibility criteria is that you just have to be a graduate. Graduate from which field, which does not, which field have you graduated from or not, doesn't really matter. For example, it is not like if you have graduated from finance, then you will necessarily get IRS. It's not that if you have graduated or if you have a background of, let's say, NCC, then you will get IPS. No. The service that you will get is not dependent on your background. The service that you get is just dependent on your rank, your preference, which service do you want, which service do you not want. This becomes a slight problem. Why? See, it is obvious that anyone who has a background in commerce, accountancy, etc., would obviously be better suited for the revenue service or the audits and account service. Anyone who has a background of, let's say, NCC, anyone who has a similar kind of background of some kind of forces, they would obviously be better suited in the IPS. But while recruiting people to the services, that is not taken into consideration. The PCS usually just appoints people to the different services depending upon what your rank is and what service we want, what is your preference. Your preference matters more rather than which is the service that is more suitable for you. That also becomes a big problem. Third issue, as we discussed, there is no qualification criteria to become a UPSC or state PSC members. The only condition is, as we discussed earlier, half of the members at least should have served on the government of India or government of a state for at least 10 years. That is the only eligibility criteria. Even there, they don't say at what level should they have served. Even a government clerk has served for 10 years under the government. Even a person who is from a much lesser rank, they have also served under the government of India for 10 years. Doesn't mean that you will appoint them. Not sure. There is no clarity on at what rank you should have served in the government of India, in what manner. That also remains a big problem. Then, the recruitment parameter has defined modernization. What do you mean by this? The UPSC exam that you are preparing for today has been conducted in the same manner for many, many, many decades. There are slight changes here and there. Slight changes, for example, you have ethics paper being introduced, you have CSAT paper coming up, you have, let's say, optional. Earlier, optional was a part of the prelims exam also. There were two optionals. That has been considered as only one optional, and then mains. But if you actually see, over the decades, not a lot has changed. If someone gave the UPSC exam in 1970s, 1980s, they would have also prepared in the same manner as you are doing it. Now compare it with the other exams in India, how they have changed, how the UPSC exam needs to change. Why? Understand that UPSC exam is not like any other exam. UPSC exam is recruiting people who will shape the country in the coming years, who will decide policies in the coming decades, who should know what are the different challenges in the society, who should know what is happening in the society. But the UPSC exam recruitment pattern has not really changed. For example, there's still nothing like that you should be at least this much or you should have this skill. You should know, let's say, if you are into IPS, etc., you should have these physical attributes, you should know swimming, etc. There's nothing like you should be able to understand tech if you are going into IRS, etc. There's nothing like that. So it should have changed in many, many other ways, but it has not. These changes are very minute. UPSC thought, let's introduce the ethics paper, corruption will go down, but that's not how it works. On paper, you can write anything you want, but when it comes to really implementing it on the ground, you may be a different person altogether. As a childhood, all of you read honesty is the best policy. And then can I ask you, have you always been honest 100% of the times? No, obviously not. So again, just introducing this kind of a change doesn't really augur well as a country. Just imagine, can you compare India of 2023 with India of 1990? You cannot. Can you compare India of 2023 to India of 1980? You cannot. But you can still compare the UPSC paper, asking the similar kind of question, the similar kind of pattern, with very few minor changes here and there. So again, with increasingly complex challenges, the system of the recruitment should also change. Other problem, they follow a negative recruitment policy. What does it mean? What it means is, while the UPSC is conducting the examination, they never tell you what are the qualities they are looking for. There is nothing mentioned, no qualities mentioned, nothing. The only quality that you need to have is remember as much as you can, vomit on the day of the exam, and we will see who gets most marks. They have never mentioned, for example, we want this quality, this weight, this height, we want someone to have this kind of a skill, that kind of a skill. That is a positive recruitment policy. So positive policy means when you have specific guidelines that this is what we are looking for, specific qualities. For example, let's say that you go to any private job. Before going to a private job, you see that job description, they would have written 10 things. That do you know this language? Do you know this? Do you know this? This is how many experience that you should have. When all of that is done, then you apply for the exam. So that everyone knows what is expected from them in the exam. Over here in the UPSC, usually you do not have any such pattern where the UPSC tells you specifically these are the qualities you are looking for. So that is why, and I should not say this to you, but UPSC is a exam where guarantee doesn't really come up. I'll give you a real example. So there was a student of mine about, I think 5 years back, if I'm not wrong, 5 years back, prepared for UPSC exam, gave a couple of attempts, did not even clear the prelims exam. This guy gave the CAT, first attempt, went to IIM Ahmedabad, top performer in IIM Ahmedabad, got an amazing package of I don't know how many dollars, went to US, settled amazingly in US, earning so rich right now. And would you call him a failure because he did not clear the UPSC exam, not even the prelims? No, you will not call him a failure, right? He achieved great success in the field that he chose because that was a different kind of a calling that he had. Now, if you see this, that is a prime example of UPSC in their recruitment, not establishing that these are the qualities that we want. If you can, come here. If you can't, don't come here. That is the other part of the problem. It's a very generalized exam that you just have to be a graduate. Doesn't matter what's a passing percentage, just be a graduate and come here. That decreases the efficiency because at the end of the day, running a country, making policy is a specialist job. So you want people working in that field. You want people having that kind of experience. That always remains good. Just like there are problems, similar to these are the suggestions. I have told you earlier also, whatever problems you think exist, right opposite to that, that becomes a solution part. First suggestion, have a more positive recruitment policy, as I said, meaning that ensure that you have clear guidelines, clear qualities mentioned that these are the things that we are looking for. Other very important thing that many people have suggested that has not happened is this: improving psychosocial profiling of candidates. Now, what does it mean? See, to become an IAS officer, you are learning a lot of these things, and all of this is important. I'm not saying this is not important, but you also have to understand once you become an IAS officer, to be a successful IAS officer in your job, it's not necessary that you should know what is repo rate, how is it calculated. It's not necessary that you should know how tropical cyclones are different from temperate cyclones. It's not necessary that you need to know where was a dancing girl statue found. Was her right hand on the waist or the left hand on the waist? It's not that important. If you want to become, now I'm thinking of that photo, thinking, was it the right hand or the left hand? I think the right hand, right? I have to ask Abhishek sir. Anyway, so basically, if you actually see all this profiling part, etc., the problem is during your service, you do not really need these things. What do you need? I'll give you a real example. So in your service, what will happen? Let's assume you are a DM of a place. Okay, you are DM of a district. Something wrong happened in your district. Okay, let's assume there's a riot in your district. Two religious groups come face to face, start hitting each other, start threatening each other. You will be the first one to get a call. As a DM, it is your duty to ensure law and order in the city. You will be called. You will go to the spot. Now comes the tough situation. Do you have the courage to walk in when people are threatening each other, killing each other, to talk to both the sides and try to make them understand that you have the power to take action against them? Are you that good? Do you have that courage? Do you have that patience? That is what matters, and that is what decides whether you will be a great officer or not. This is something that cannot be tested by any written examination. That's a big problem. Nowadays, there are so many tests that have come up. Many corporates, many big companies conduct these tests before hiring candidates at a higher level. So, if a big company, for example, is hiring a candidate at the very high level, they will first conduct all these tests to ensure that the person is very strong mentally, the person is able to manage tough situations. But the UPSC so far has not been doing that. So we have to focus more on the challenges that the officers will face once they get into the service. I am again not saying that remove this examination, etc. All this knowledge is important. You need to know about the culture of India. You need to know about the history of India. All that is important. That is how you will be able to get into the job. But again, the problem that I'm asking here is the real challenge may be very different as compared to what you're reading here, and that is ignored. That's a recommendation. For this purpose only, have greater involvement of outside experts, have people who are experts in judging personalities, have people who are experts in judging this uh, psychological point of view of the person. Where does he stand before recruitment? Recruitment should not just be on the basis of how many marks you do. It should also be on the basis of how strong you are mentally. Then this one size fits all approach should be changed to a job centric approach. As I said, you might not like it, but for example, the suggestion is let's have people from accounts, economics background for the IRS, especially. Let's have people from a background of NCC or some kind of armed forces background to come into the IPS because they will be better suited. Not have everyone eligible for every job because that decreases the efficiency. That is again an approach. And the UPSC should have or should convert into a R&D organization. R&D means research and development. The UPSC should be more into more research. So UPSC conducts the exam, advises the government a lot of things, but they don't do a lot of research. Research as in what is it that we should change in the exam? I'll give you an example of research. Okay, let's take an example of research. So basically, let us assume, and I don't want to give ideas to UPSC. So I hope none of the UPSC members are watching this. I'm sure they are too busy to watch this. But anyways, let's take an idea. So for example, the UPSC should conduct a research that in the last 30 years, this is just an example, okay? In the last 30 years, for example, how many people from arts background became an IAS officer? How many people from engineering background became an IAS officer? How many from, let's say, medicine became an IAS officer? Commerce, for example, became an IAS officer, and others, okay? And then see their performances. What were their performances? Was it like arts people performed much better in their duty? Were they able to do a better job? for the medicine people able to do a better job. This is a kind of research so that they can take a clue that in the future maybe we should focus more on these fields. Let us have them and recruit them. Athar, don't worry, you come in others. I'm not ignoring lawyers. I don't want to be sued. So you are in others. You are the leading one in others, okay? So lawyers, teachers, and who else? Lawyer, teacher, then sports people, whoever, others, all of them. So basically, again, this is an example of what should be done in the field of research. That having research so that, see, without historical data, without research, it's very difficult to go ahead and actually have a policy for the future. So when you do a research, you get to know, oh, this was their performance. Maybe these profession people are what we need. Maybe encourage them to apply. Maybe have them as IPS. Similar kind of a thing can be done for IPS. Similar can be thing for IRS, etc. And see the result. That is a suggestion that the UPSC should conduct itself into more of an R&D, research and development organization, to have better results for our UPSC government. Now, continuing with the civil servants, how the civil servants work, what are the other things that they do, what are the other things that are required out of them. The constitution also gives a lot of other details about the UPSC civil servants. For example, the constitution says recruitment and conditional service of public servants will be handled by central or state legislation. So for central government services, the parliament will make the law. Condition of service basically means, for example, let's say salary, other benefits, and other perks, for example, which is the house, etc. You will get. All these come under the condition of service. What will the condition of service? How will you ensure that you are working well? That are to be decided by the parliament at the central level or state at the legislature at the state level. Then they follow the pleasure doctrine. I'm sure in Indian polity you all would have read about what is pleasure doctrine, right? The pleasure doctrine. Vivek, tell me this. Whenever I say, have you read this in polity, you say no. Is it that you have not read polity or that you don't remember polity? Well, every time I say you read in polity, everyone says yes, but you say no. Is it because you have not read polity? Okay, you have not read it. Okay, fine. Don't worry. So when you do read it, you will be able to understand that much better. So don't worry about that. But I'll just explain to you in very brief. So basically what happens is, if you are in the government service, there can be two ways for your removal. One way for removal is there's a long process, like the Supreme Court judge. Parliament will get involved, Parliament will have to conduct the inquiry, and then the president will have to sign it. Or removal, like the UPS will ask the Supreme Court to conduct an inquiry, all of that. So one way of removal is that there is a proper Parliament role, there's a role of the Supreme Court, etc. Then the other set of people are those that can just be removed by the order of the president or the governor, without all of that shenanigans and the parliament has to vote, or this has to be done, that has to be done. This is what you call as pleasure doctrine. So in simple terms, for example, you say that the ministers hold the office till the pleasure of the president. Till the pleasure of the president. So you can say civil servants or central government servants hold the office till the pleasure of the president. Yes, Athar, I got your answer. Don't worry. So state civil servants hold the office till the pleasure of the governor. Central civil servants hold the office till the pleasure of the president, because there is no involvement of parliament, voting, Supreme Court conducting the inquiry, nothing like that. They hold the office till the pleasure. That is called the pleasure doctrine. Now, it doesn't mean that they can be randomly removed. There will be an inquiry, etc., that will happen, but nothing like Parliament, etc., Supreme Court, they will not get involved. The President of India can issue the order that will lead to the removal. On the other hand, the governor can issue the order for the state. Yes, Ashu. Article 311 says dismissal, removal, or reduction in rank can also be done. I had told you earlier also, there's a difference between dismissal and removal. Dismissal means can't have the same job again. can't have the job again. In the future, you cannot apply to the job. You are gone now, not in the servants now. Removal, on the other hand, means can apply to the same job again. So can come back following the process. If you are an IAS officer, the government of India has dismissed you, then you cannot become an IAS officer once again. If you have been removed and you still have the age, you still have the eligibility criteria, you again give the exam, you can again become the officer. So removal, you can come back again. Dismissal, you cannot come back again. The government may also reduce your rank if you did some really big blunder. The government can remove or reduce your rank as well if you really basically did something that the government did not like. That can also happen as per the law. There is no law that says that reduction in the rank also cannot happen. I'll give you some examples as we go on, don't worry. I'll give you some real examples of what should you not do. I'll tell you something that you should, okay, I'll give you one example here itself. Something that you should not do. Few years back, our Prime Minister went to Chhattisgarh and for addressing for some job, etc. So he landed in the helicopter. When the Prime Minister or a big minister comes to your city as a DM, you will go to receive them. So Prime Minister landed, and there was his DM, this handsome guy, to receive the Prime Minister, and he was wearing his Ray-Ban sunglasses, Ray-Ban, these aviators, and he met the Prime Minister. Nothing happened then, and after a few hours, the report started coming in that the government has initiated disciplinary inquiry against him. How dare you look so smart? These were not the word that they used, but basically it became a big issue. How are you wearing these aviators, the Ray-Ban aviators? You're not supposed to do that while you are receiving the Prime Minister. How can you do that? So it became a big issue. So don't do that. Basically, don't look smarter than the minister that you are receiving, because that will create a problem for you. Okay? So again, an example of what you should not do once you become a civil servant that may create some problems going ahead for you. Anyway, let's go ahead. Let's come to the idea of what is all India service, why do we require it, versus central service. How many all India services do we have? How many all India services do we have? Yes, we have 3 all India services, right? We have 3 all India services. The 3 all India services are IAS, IPS Police Service, and Indian Forest Service. Indian Forest Service. The other services that you get by the UPSC exam, IRS, Railway, Postal, all of these, those are central services. All of those are central services. What is the primary difference between the two? The primary difference between the two is, if you are in the All India service, that means you are under the control of both the center and the state. If you are in the All India service, only then you will get a cadre. Cadre means a state where you will have to work. So in the cadre, for example, let's say I've been given the Gujarat cadre. So you'll work in Gujarat in your tenure. If you are an All India service officer, you will be answerable to both the state and the center government. The state government can also give you order. They can also basically transfer you. And the center government will also give you the order. Both of these are all India services, under which, again, you become subordinate to both the center as well as the state governments. On the other hand, when you are a part of the central services, that means you only report to the government of India. You are not under any state government. Central services can be railways, revenue, foreign service, postal service, audit account service, defense-related services, defense estate services. All of these are central services. So again, central services are those where you are under the central government only. Now, in Indian polity, all of you, except Vivek, would have read how to create a new All India service, right? The Constitution of India tells, under Article 312, the process of creating a new All India service. This is one of the special powers of the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha, which is also called the Council of States, as you all know. The Rajya Sabha has to approve a resolution by a special majority of two-thirds members present and voting, and that can lead to the creation of new All India service. Now, this new All India service, for example, there has been a idea that we should have, let's say, Indian judicial service, we should have Indian education service, but that has not been done so far. I'll give you an example. Why do we need, or why do people say we need a new All India service? Let's take a very simple example. There is a lot of demand for something called Indian judicial service. Indian judicial service. There's a lot of demand for this. Why? The idea is, let's try and understand. If you look at the Supreme Court and the High Court, their recruitment, their appointment of judges, they happen by the President of India. So basically, central government is involved here. But if you go below the high courts, then if you look at the judiciary, that becomes a prerogative of the state government. The district judges below the district court, the other courts that you have, they now come under the state government. Now, this is where the problem starts, because there's a lot of disparity. Disparity in two things. Number one, number of judges are not what we require. There's a lot of vacancy. And also, for all these, the governments conduct their own examination. There would be friends who would tell you, I'm preparing for PCS judicial examination, or I'm preparing for the PCSJ exam. Have you heard them? These are the exams that they undergo to be a part of the state judiciary. Now, what is the problem here? The problem here is when you have this exam at a different state level. Let's assume Assam has their own PCSJ exam, Karnataka has their own, Punjab has their own. Now, you don't know the exact level of the examination. In some stage, you might see that papers getting leaked. You might see the people getting in without even having to prepare very well. In some states, it's unfair on the people, because in their state, the exam was not conducted properly. In other state, the exam was conducted properly. So their joining will be delayed. A lot of these issues come up. So the idea is, if Indian Judicial Service, for example, becomes an all India service, then the UPSC will conduct the exam. It will be the same level throughout the country, same level of judges, because right now in this issue, in this era, you don't know whether the level of judges, if a judge is recruited from Himachal Pradesh and a judge recruited from Karnataka, judge recruited from Madhya Pradesh or Jharkhand, you don't know if the level is the same or not. And the same judges later on go to High Court, same will go to the Supreme Court. So you have to make sure at the end of the day that the level is the same. There is no division between the two. None of them has an advantage over the other. That can be ensured if we have All India Judicial Service. This is the idea. It has not been implemented so far because, again, the states don't want to give away these kind of powers. States say that, why do we give away these powers? This is something that we want to do. Why have the central government do it? So there has not been much progress on that regard also. Now let's talk about the idea of All India Service. There are arguments in favor of All India Service. Why is it a good thing? And there are arguments against the All India Service as well. Before going ahead, I'll give you an example, a short story about a service. So basically, there's an IAS officer, you might have heard of her, and I've had the pleasure to meet her a couple of times personally. There's an IAS officer called Durga Shakti Nagpal. She became very famous a few years back. Durga Shakti Nagpal. I'll tell you her story. So it's about, I think, 10 years ago, if I'm not wrong, lump sum there, about 10 years ago. So she got recruited as the IAS officer. Her first posting was, she was the SDM of Gautam Budh Nagar, that is Noida today. So UP cadre officer, and she was the SDM there. What happened was, we have a problem in many parts of the country of illegal sand mining. We have a problem of illegal sand mining. So for builders' purposes, for building, etc., you require a lot of sand. To save the cost, these illegally, people just start to dig in anywhere they want, take out as much sand as possible, and then they steal it. It has become a big environmental hazard as well. So she got to know, for example, that there's illegal sand mining happening. She went there, tried to stop it. She was a young officer, just recruited newly. Now, these people who are indulging in or who indulge in these sand money are very, very powerful people. Very powerful people have a lot of connection with the government. Obviously, they do it after giving some bribe to stop people higher up so that they cannot be stopped. So what happened was that when she did it, just a few days later, there was a case filed against her. Now, again, I am no one to say the case was true or false, but at that time, there was a lot of news that a false case has been filed against her. So the case was something like this, that she has destroyed or removed a wall of a mosque. I don't remember mosque or temple, one of these two. Not important for the story. So it was a case filed against her that she has basically broken down a wall of a mosque or a temple, something like that. So now what happened was the UP government suspended her on this charge, that you are going against the religious harmony of the place. With your actions, there may be communal violence, so we are suspending you. Not just this, the UP government wanted to dismiss her. So UP government wanted to dismiss her. Now it became a big issue. The issue is all India services officers cannot be dismissed by the state government, because the all India services officers are appointed by the President of India. If the President has appointed them, the dismissal or the removal has to be from the President, not from the governor level. So all India service officers are protected in that sense. The state government, for example, the state government can suspend you, fine. They can even transfer you, fine, but they cannot remove you from the job, and they cannot dismiss you. That is the center government. They cannot do that. So this became a big issue between UP and the center government. So much so that the UP government said that we don't want any IS officers, take all of them back. We are happy with our state civil service officers. We will run the state with our state civil service officers. Anyways, so what happened was there was a compromise. A compromise was she was transferred, this IS officer was transferred to the central government. So now she works at central government only in different ministries. This brought to light the issue of IAS officers, of center versus the state. Center government trying to exert their influence, state governments not really wanting that. Since then, there has been a debate about whether all India services are good or all India services are bad. Let's see some arguments. Let's see first arguments in favor of all India service. The first and the biggest argument is the all India service officers have a national outlook and not a state-wise outlook. Basically, they want nation's development, not the development of that particular area only. Why? Let's take an example. So basically, when you become an officer, IAS officer, 99% chances are you will not get your home cadre. 99% chances are, let's say if you are from Haryana, you will not get Haryana state. You will get some other state. If you are from UP, you will not get UP. You will get some other state. There are 99% chances you will not get it. If you get a amazing rank, top 10, then maybe you might get it, but otherwise there's a very little chance that you will get your own home cadre. So let's say you are from Rajasthan, but your home, that your cadre that has been given to you is West Bengal. Let's say you're from Karnataka, but the cadre that you have been given is Punjab, something like that. What happens as a result of this is you have a national outlook. You are not just thinking about the state where you belong. You're thinking about the state where you are working. You're thinking about their development. You're thinking about how can we develop the entire country. So the All India Services officers basically have a much better national outlook. Second, similar level of training. Again, the example I was giving in judicial services. When you are the IAS officers across the entire country, you are given similar kind of training, same training at the same level in the same academy in Missouri. So everyone is at the same level. There's no disparity that in some state officer will be very intelligent, in some states officer may not be that intelligent or may not have certain training. The All India Services officers, because it's the same kind of a level, they have a similar kind of a training to that. Thirdly, All India Services officers, states can't pressurize, as we just saw in this case. States can't pressurize. Yes, the states can transfer. Yes, the states may suspend, but the states cannot remove, the states cannot dismiss. That gives more independence to these officers. They know that the center government has their support, the center government has their back, and they just can't be randomly removed. So they are much more fearless in the job that they do. They do their job in a much more open manner, knowing fully well that they are protected by the center government. One other thing, and I'll explain this to you with an example. So, what happened was a few years back, there was very bad floods in Kerala. Okay, now my drawing is bad, but let's take this example. Let's say this is the southern coast of India. Okay, let's assume this is Kerala. If you're from Kerala, I'm really sorry, but this is the best I can do. Let's say this is Kerala. Okay, so basically, what happened was, let's assume this is the place. Let's take a simple example. Let's assume this is a place where there are bad floods and people are drowning. So what happens in this case? The DM will ask the state government, can I have some boats for rescue, right? Now, if the entire state is under floods, obviously number of boats are limited. You cannot have a lot of boats. You cannot have, or you cannot send them immediately. And this is all real example. So what happened was, this officer was friends with DM over here in Tamil Nadu. So just across the border, there's Tamil Nadu. So over here, the district just across the border, these two were friends. How? Same batch, same batch. They were friends in the academy, so they knew each other. So this DM just called this officer. They were friends. So they said, can you please send some boats? I require them urgently. The people are drowning. So they said, okay, I'll send them. No issues. So just across the border, they send the boats here. Simple. And that was possible only because the IAS officers, the All India Services officers, they have been trained together. They are connected as a network. They are not just restricted to their states. That, oh, I will work only within my state. I don't know what is happening in some other states. So again, it's very unifying kind of a force. It's a very unifying kind of a structure. And it happens in real life. You are in one state, you have some issue in some other state. There will always be some officer of your batch in the other state. You can call him or her up that, hey man, what's up? I have this issue. Can you please help me out? Just like normal friends do. So again, this is possible only because of the All India service structure. Remember, if we just had state services, then it would not have been possible. So there's a unifying structure. All of these are suggestions or arguments in favor of why we should have All India service, why All India services have been successful. However, there are arguments on the other side of the story as well. Many states don't want the All India services officers. First biggest argument, look at what is happening in Delhi. The entire problem that Delhi has with the central government is what? Delhi wants to control their officers. Central doesn't want that, right? Delhi is saying that let us control the officers. Only then they will listen to us. Otherwise, they will not even listen to us. They will not implement our policies. We need control over them. And the center doesn't want them. So obviously, first big problem is no control or limited control of states. I won't say no control, but limited control of states. Limited control of the states. States, if they really think that an officer is not doing what they want, they can't really remove the person. First big argument. Second big argument, central deputation. What is this exactly? We'll discuss about this in more detail towards the end of the class as a last topic, but I'll just tell you what is central deputation. So you are given a cadre, you are an IAS officer, but the central government also needs certain IAS officers, right? They need officers in their ministries. They need officers to work in different departments. So what happens is every year, the government of India requests certain states to send some officers and work for the center government for some years. That is deputation. Deputation means transfer for some time, 5 years, 10 years, let them work in Delhi and then they can go back. Now this becomes a problem. State governments say that center takes our best officers. It's like when you have a birthday cake and your friend says, no, I don't want to have the cake, you have it. And then he will come and take the best piece, cherry on the top, he will take and then say, I am done enough, now you have it. Won't you just hate this? You would hate this, right? You said you don't want to have the cake, now you have the best possible piece and then you are going away. What is this? So the same issue comes here. The center government basically comes in and chooses, handpicks these are doing well, okay, come to us. Now the state governments are left without them. They say we don't have enough officers, now what do we do? That remains a big issue. Third big problem, lack of local knowledge. See, India is a very unique country because there is no country as diverse as us. There's a language issue. Let's say you are from Punjab and you got Karnataka cadre. Let's say if you are from Tamil Nadu, you get, let's say, Rajasthan cadre. Language becomes a barrier. You are given training. It's not that they will randomly just send you wherever you want. If you are given a cadre, you will be given language training. But the issue here is, how long do you think would you take to master a language? It will be a long time. You can learn basics of it, but when you're interacting with the common population who will speak their mother tongue and you are not able to understand, that remains a big problem. So the local knowledge may take a lot of years to build. And knowledge is not just about language. It is also about issues as well. Understand this. Understand this. See, let's assume all your life you have spent in Rajasthan. Born in Rajasthan, school in Rajasthan, college, brought up, everything about Rajasthan. So you all know what is the problem in Rajasthan. You know the big issues on ground. Now let's say all of a sudden you get Haryana cadre, you get all the training possible, but then would you be able to understand the situation in Haryana as good as you knew Rajasthan? Not really. Because you were born there, you knew everything there, you knew how the people behave, you knew what is a local issue, and then all of a sudden you are asked to work in some other area. That creates a big divide. Because understand this, when you are a DM or a collector, your 90% interactions will not be with the VIPs. Your VIP interaction will be when you work in Delhi on central government deputation. Your 90% interaction will be with the common public. They will come to you, sir, I did not get this, I did not get that, sir, this happened, sir, a riot has happened, sir, this killing has happened, sir, someone is taking out a rally, sir, please come, sir, there's a curfew, sir, please come. These are the things that usually happen day to day when you become the in charge of the district. So your knowledge of local issues has to be much, much stronger. Knowledge of local language has to be much stronger. That becomes a slight bit of barrier when you are into all India service. Then comes the problem, or not the problem, but the debate of federalism. States say that this is against our federal structure. The state government say center government sends officers. These officers then control working of the state, and we don't like this. They say that we are happy with our state civil officers, we can control them. In this way, the center government is just trying to control and take out all the powers of the state. This is against a federal structure and we should not have that. These are the arguments given by many states, obviously the ones that are ruled by the opposition parties, when it comes to these kind of services, the All India services. This issue of central deputation, we will discuss later on towards the end of the class. That the issue of central deputation, why is it in the news? There has been a lot of news about this last year, especially when central government tried to change the rules, but they then again took those back. We'll be discussing how that works. But the issue here is, most state governments, the ones that are specially ruled by the opposition parties, don't like the All India service for various reasons, as we have just discussed right here. The Joint Public Service Commission, I told you already, but just a reminder quickly. First difference, while UPSC, state PSC are constitutional bodies, JPSC is a statutory body. It will be formed by the parliament only when two or more than two states request, not suo motu, not by itself. Also, working conditions are the same as the state public service commissions. Their appointment and removal both are done by the President of India. An example that I gave you was the Haryana one. Right now, we don't have any joint public service commission because, again, joint public service commission is more like giving away your powers, and no state wants to give away their powers. So now we don't have any such joint public service commission, but Haryana was just an example of how we used to have it earlier. Now, coming to the functions of the secretariat. What is the secretariat? In simple terms, it is the office of the ministries. Office of the ministries. So let me tell you a usual graph of a civil servant, an IAS officer. Okay, wake up. This is the part that you are waiting for. Okay, so I'll tell you the usual graph of a civil servant, how a usual graph of an IAS officer works. So let's say you get recruited. Let's assume you get a great rank, amazing rank. You get your training done in Missouri. You get your Bharat Brahman. You will move around the entire state, entire country. Then you are given to a state that this is your kid now. Adopt this kid and make this kid into a grown-up human being. Now, what happens is you start working for the state. Usually, your first posting is the SDM, sub-divisional magistrate. This is usually your first posting. In a bigger city, you will be an SDM. In a smaller city, smaller town, you might also be a collector. Depends. Small cities, you might be collector. Big cities, you might be SDM also. After 7 years, you get the DM post. Okay. So basically, after 7 years, you become the DM post. Now, what happens is there are two types of officers. Some officers want to remain in the state only. Some officers want to go to the central government. There are perks of both of these. The perk of going to the central government is obviously you get better facilities. You get to live in a bigger city, Delhi, more facilities as such, bungalows, etc. But the problem with the central government, why many IAS officers don't want to go to central government, is at the central government there are thousands of IAS officers, thousands. So it's difficult to stand out. There will be so many people senior to you. Here you are the DM, like a king, whatever you do, and then all of a sudden you go to central ministry and you see, oh, there are so many people above you, you have to report to them. So many people don't want to go to central deputation. That entirely is their choice. Because when you remain in the state, it is easier to rise up in the rank, lesser competition. Lesser competition means more power at the state level. But then it depends. You want to live the life of Delhi, you want to become closer to the central government per se, because your political ambitions mainly, maybe you are thinking that after some time retire, join politics. So I want to be close to central government. Depends entirely upon you, whatever your plan is. So either you go to central government or you become the state. Now, what happens after the DM? So you remain at the DM post for let's say 5-6 years. Then you either go to central government or you can go to central government before this also. It's not like you have to be the DM. After SDM only 1-2 years, you can still go to central government. Like Durga Shakti Nagpal, the example I gave you. She was SDM for what? 1.5-2 years and got transferred to central government, never became the DM. So you can do that also. When you go to central government, you become a secretary. Every ministry has a secretariat. For example, let's say finance ministry has a secretariat. So finance ministry at the top will have a secretary. Secretary will be the senior most IAS officer of that ministry. He will be the one assisting the minister for everything. When you come to center ministry, usually at the very bottom you start at the under secretary level. Usually under secretary is the first post. Then you maybe get to become a joint secretary. Then you maybe get to become a deputy secretary. Then maybe you get to become a additional secretary, something like that, and then you get to become a secretary. Usually this is how it works. So there are a lot of levels basically. This all together, this structure is called the secretariat. In every ministry, at the top there will be one secretary. Like the person will be called finance secretary, home secretary. There will be only one secretary in the ministry. Home secretary, finance secretary. The lower you come, the population will increase. Like in one ministry, you may have 20 people as under secretary. In one ministry, you may have 15 people as joint secretary. Let's say in some of these you have a lot of other people as a secretary. So it depends really. The hierarchy, when you go lower, the number of people will increase. Now, what do they do? That is what we are discussing. What is the job of the secretariat as a secretary working in the ministry? What will you be expected to do? First, you will be expected to help in policy making. Government will ask you for suggestions for policies and you will have to suggest to them. Let's say government says we have to double the farmers' income in next 5 years. Tell us what to do. So you will try and make policy. You will suggest to the government. Whether government accepts them or not depends entirely on the government. Government asks you how to spread the COVID-19 vaccination properly, how to increase the rate of vaccination. You advise the government takes the final decision. Remember always, no matter how powerful you become as a bureaucrat, the final decision will always be in the hand of the political executive. That is how democracy works. Political executive, that is a minister, will take the final decision. You can only advise in the policy related matters. Then you are expected to assist in legislation. Means, for example, the anything related to the parliament. Do you think your ministers will know how to write the bill? What is it in the bill? How the bills are passed? What is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? Do you think he would have N. Lakshmikant to remember, oh, this is how the bill is passed? Most probably not. So they will ask for your help. You will be the one helping them with everything. Make a bill, try and explain how the bill will be passed. If questions are asked from them in the parliament, you are the ones who prepare the answers so that they can give the answers. All of that is your responsibility. You implement the policies of your department. Whatever policies that have been suggested, you implement them. You also look into budgeting. So every single year, from your ministry, you will tell the finance ministry that this is the money we require for next year. This is our expenses. Please give us this much money. When the money comes in, you prepare a budget for the approval of the minister, how the money will be spent, how the money will not be spent. They try to make the ministries much more efficient, try to make sure that the ministries can also try and save money, try and be as efficient in their policy making as possible. And in the end, assist ministers in all the parliamentary responsibilities. Questions being asked, what question to ask. If a question has been asked to you, then what to reply. Telling them, sir, it's a start question. I read in M. Lakshmikant. It's an oral answer. Maybe let's say one day the minister asks you that I have been asked a short notice question. What do I do? And then you tell him, sir, I was not present in that class that day. Sorry. Teacher was saying something like short notice, start, unstart, but I was in my own mind thinking, who will I thank when I get rank 1? So sorry, sir, I don't know this. And you give him that this is the N. Lakshmikant book, you can read yourself. You will not do this, right? So obviously, you will assist the ministers in all those responsibilities that are given to the ministers in the parliament. That also is a strength, or that also is responsibility of the secretariat. Tell me this, do you like a current system of bureaucracy? The current system where politicians take the final decision, the bureaucrats give them all the suggestions. Bureaucrats also have some powers, ministers have a lot more power. Do you like the system? Why no? Why everyone is saying no, man? If it is such a big no, why are you preparing to enter this system, by the way? If someone is such a big no, why are you going in that system? Are you thinking that you are Singham and you will go and change the entire system? Is that what your aim is? Oh, Baba. Sorry, you'll get disappointed after a few years. But anyways, keep up the optimism. Tell me right now, why don't you like the system? Okay. Labdi saying ultimate credit to the political execution. Okay, so you're going for the credit. Okay, got it. Then some are saying they need more powers. Then less literate. Okay, I get the general theme. Now understand this. I hope you are the ones who change the system. I've been doing this for 7 years. Every year, every batch says I'll change the system, but nothing has changed really. I hope you are the batch that changes it. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Listen to this very carefully. A lot of us, and many of us, and it is fine, a lot of us don't like the system The reason being that we have this concept in our mind that we are the educated ones. We did all the hard work. We did all the studies. And then it is the minister who's taking the final decision. That is the entire grudge that people have, right? The gist of it, right? We are the ones who did all the hard work. We studied. We are the ones who are intelligent. We cleared the exam. And then the minister comes in and takes the final decision. Those illiterate ministers, right? That is an issue that most of us have. I'll tell you some things which are facts so that you can understand the situation. First of all, democracy. You can search for democracy all you want in any book. In no definition of democracy, you will find the word education written anywhere. Nowhere. Any definition, Abraham Lincoln definition or Shivagant definition, NCRT definition, go look at any definition. You will never have the word education. That democracy means rule of the educated. No. If democracy meant rule of the educated, then the country would be run by scientists only. Who are you? Who is me? No one. If the concept is that highly educated people should run the country, let the scientists run the country. Let us all stay at home first. So let's get that apart. Another thing that we have to understand here is a lot of us have this issue that a lot of us regard IQ as more important than EQ. That is not true. You will read this in ethics. Your intelligent question is not very higher than emotional question. Please understand this. Emotional quotient is what makes a person more successful. No education gives you that. No education gives you that. The third thing that we have to understand, which many people do not, maybe because of movies, maybe because of some series, maybe because of a few examples, people have a conception in their mind that that ministers are uneducated, they are illiterate, and we are the most literate class. Look at a lot of our ministers. A lot of them are highly educated. Let's remove this misconception from our mind. A lot of them are very highly educated, and it is increasingly changing every single year. Increasingly changing, especially when people come to the top cabinet ministries. Most of them are very highly educated. So this concept that we have of ministry or politician being the uneducated class needs to go away, because that is not a fact. Don't compare MPs or MLAs with the ministers. Understand, ministers are chosen, few of them. So again, there may be exception, but you will see this concept of them being uneducated is wrong. One last thing. One last thing before I go ahead. There is something called accountability. There's something called accountability. Today, if a policy is not liked by the people, people cannot remove you from the job. An IAS job is as safe as ever, doesn't matter which government comes in. You introduce a policy, doesn't really matter. People don't like it. Who will they vote against? They'll vote against a politician, not against you. So you are safe. So if you don't have to pay the consequences of the policy, why should you take the final decision? As simple as that. Why should you take the final decision if you are not the one facing the consequences? It's a simple idea. Either you say that, no, sir, I will resign if the people don't like this policy. I will resign. You will not do that. So how is it that you should be given the power? One more thing. If you really think that ministers take the final call and not you, what is stopping you from becoming a politician? Go and fight elections. It's easier than this, as most of you have said. It's easier than this, right? So why do study and all this and do all the hard work when the ministers can do it? Go and fight an election. And you will understand, convincing even 50 people to vote for you is the most difficult thing in the entire world. No matter what you say, even convincing 50 people to vote for you is extremely difficult. So let's not underestimate the skill that they have. The skill that the politicians have of connecting with millions of people in whatever language. You might not like their language, you might not like how they speak English, you might not like how they behave, etc. But you have to understand, it's a skill that education cannot teach. It's a skill that is valued everywhere. So our conception of having education and then bringing us at the top doesn't really hold true. Anyways, let's come back to the current system. Now, I'll tell you something else. The current system of bureaucracy has had a lot of very positive fights about it. I'll give you a simple example. Let's do this. Let's imagine India's map. Okay. Let's imagine India's map. Let's start from the north and go clockwise from our neighboring countries. Okay. We'll start from the north, go clockwise. Let's just take an example. Let's start with Tibet or China. Then we have Bhutan. Then we come to Nepal. Then we come to, let's say, Myanmar. Then we come to Bangladesh. You come to the south, you have Sri Lanka. If you want maritime neighbor, you can talk about Maldives as well. Come to our very own small bro, Pakistan, and a distinct bro, Afghanistan. Okay, let's talk about these one by one. Just think of these countries and think of the past that they have had. China, let's not even discuss that, not even a democracy. We all know how Chinese government itself kills its people, has been killed many people. Bhutan, not really a democracy. It's not really a size that you can compare. It's more of a municipality, not to insult, but it's a very small country. Nepal, history of civil wars, constitution changed many times. No prime minister in the history has ever completed their tenure. Entire royal family was killed by their own member. System broken apart. Myanmar, military rule, such a common thing. Last 2.5 years, still under the military rule. No one knows when it will go away. Bangladesh, a long history of military coup. 1975, their prime minister, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, along with the entire family, was assassinated by their own army. There was an army rule for many years. Still problematic. Sri Lanka, civil war. We all know about the civil war. Even now, the allegation that the Tamil population does not get its rights in Sri Lanka. Maldives, dictatorship for about 3 decades. There were military people who tried, or there were terrorists who tried to take over the country. India saved it by Operation Cactus. Pakistan, the lesser we say, the better. Afghanistan, let's leave that apart. Now, if you look at entire neighboring country that we have to understand that we don't give ourselves, our bureaucracy, our politicians, the credit that they actually deserve. A lot of times we criticize our country, which is fine. You should always do that. But we should also give the credit where it is due. We have never had a situation, for example, where a party has lost the election, who is in power, and says, no, we will not vacate. No, we will still remain the Prime Minister, CM. No, they don't do that. Yes, they may criticize the Election Commission of India for some days that EVM is wrong, and then nothing. It all goes back to normal. There is always a transfer of power that has never been disrupted. Look at America. Donald Trump lost the election, refused to believe it. Even today in America, you go and ask the Trump supporters, ask them who is the president, and they will say Donald Trump. They say, no, he is still the president. Secretly, he is the president. Look at what is happening in these countries. And then come to our system. You might criticize our system, but again, bureaucracy has to take a lot of courage. This bureaucracy has to be given a lot of credit for this. There are a lot of strengths of the system that we have right now. It's a time-tested system. It's an extremely old system. The bureaucratic system that we have today exists since the time of the British. That is why even today, the post is called collector. Why collector? The British called him the collector because he was supposed to collect the revenue. The entire job was to collect as much revenue as possible. So we thought, why to change the name, man? Let us call him collector only. So we still call him the collector. But you don't have to collect revenue now. But it's a time-tested system going on for such a long time. It's a stable system. Have you ever imagined, let's say someone becomes a minister for the first time, or someone becomes the prime minister for the first. Let's imagine 2014, PM Modi comes into the office first time. There would be someone to tell him, right? So this is the button. You press this button, person will come. You want tea, coffee, whatever. So this is the button. You press, a driver will come. Someone has to tell him that, sir, if you want to talk to American president, how do we do that? So, sir, you call us. We will call their tech secretary. Then they will attach, and then we'll get in touch with you. Someone has to tell the system. It's not that you move into office one day and you know, okay, this is how it works. For ministers, chief ministers, everyone has to know this. Do you think the prime minister comes into office and says, I will not work for 10 days, 10 days, let me learn everything and then I will work? The country can stop for 10 days. No, we have a continuous government. How? Because the continuity is provided by the bureaucrats. They are the ones at the background handling everything. That is why they don't have a 5-year tenure. They continue because it is essential to provide that continuity. That stability comes in from that system. So understand the responsibility you are taking when you are entering that field. They are politically neutral. Again, there are so many examples of IAS and IPS officers joining a political party, but only after their retirement. You will not see the bureaucrats within the service openly supporting a political party. There may be one or two exceptions here and there, but overall, they have always maintained political neutrality. Doesn't matter which party is in power, they will advise on the best interest of the country, which leads to a national unifying outlook. As I said, the IAS officers, how the IAS structure is, it leads to a unifying outlook. Rather than thinking from point of view of one single state, the officers think from the point of view of the entire country to unify the entire country. These are the strengths of the current system that we have. However, it's not to say that we don't have weaknesses. There are still a lot of weaknesses in the existing system that we have. First, undue emphasis on the routine work. In the bureaucracy, everything still has to be in writing. Give this in writing, take this in writing, submit application in writing, has to be in the file. And this is true. This is to keep them safe. But rather than actually adopting new things, adopting new technology, there's a lot of emphasis on let's have the same kind of a function as we have been doing. No one wants to change those functions. Because again, the bureaucracy thinks that this is where we get our powers. If we change everything, we will not be that powerful. So there's a emphasis that we should have follow only routine work. Then the problem of proliferation of ministries and departments. Proliferation means increase in number. Tell me this, if you are an IAS officer, would you want more number of ministries or less number of ministries? What do you think? You're an IAS officer, what do you think? More ministries or less ministries? More, obviously more. Why? The more the ministries, more are the chances that they get to become a secretary. Let's imagine if you have only 5 ministries. So there will be only 5 secretaries: Home Secretary, Defense Secretary, Finance Secretary, Foreign Secretary, and maybe someone else. But what about the others? Won't they want to get the same power? So everyone wants to go to the ministry position. So the IAS also, the lobby of the IAS, they try to push the government towards having more ministries, more departments, so that they also get to the top post. Because again, the pyramid works in this way: the higher you go, the number of positions are lesser. There's only one prime minister. There are not multiple prime ministers. So the higher you go, the pyramid now becomes narrower. Similarly, with the IAS officers, they have kind of pushed the government towards having more ministries, more department. That increases government expenditure, increases the government processing, file processing time also. That's a problem. Too many levels, as we just saw in every ministry. There are too many levels. Under secretary, joint secretary, deputy secretary, additional secretary, secretary level. That means that file from one place to the other place takes a lot of time. If you are joining as an under secretary, you have a good idea, but your idea to reach the very top will take a lot of time because there's a very strict hierarchy. It's not so fluid. For example, in the private sector, we say that the work culture is fluid in the private sector. Work culture is fluid. Fluid means that you don't have to be restricted and you have to report to your manager only. If you have a great idea, you straight away go to the office of the CEO or the chairman that I have this idea. One guy did nothing. That will be even big blunder. If you are a junior officer, please give suggestions to the officer above you and not to the top officer, because hierarchy is taken very, very, very seriously. There's too many levels. You're expected to stay just one level above and not go above. Risk avoidance. Now, understand this part. India is a country that historically does not take a lot of risk. In most cases, you will see, we see what is happening in the world. Is it successful or not? We wait for a few years, only then we implement this. I'll give you two big examples. When the COVID vaccination started for kids, there was a long debate. Should we start this for the kids or not? Should we give it to the kids or not? We waited for other countries to do it. We saw what is the impact, and then we went ahead. We don't take a lot of risk. GM crops, the genetically modified crops. After so many years, after so much discussion, so many government meetings, the only crop that we still allow in India is cotton. There have been so many resolution passed on mustard, brinjal, whatever, but again, at the end of the day, it's cotton only. Look at our neighboring countries. I would suggest you, after the class is over, look at Bangladesh and how they have used GM crops. Bangladesh allows a lot more GM crops, and they have had the result. They have increased their cultivation. They have been able to make sure that they are able to, at the end of the day, get more yield out of everything. Ashu is saying LPG reforms. LPG reforms is a similar example. When India introduced LPG reform in 1991, before that, all the Southeast Asian countries already did it in 1980s. Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, they had introduced LPG reforms much, much earlier than India. Because as a policy, we usually stay back, see what is happening, and then take a call. Look at the Bitcoins. We still don't have a law on Bitcoins, by the way. The only law that we have is for crypto, we will take a tax. But how to regulate, how not to regulate, still we have not made a final law for that. The government is saying we are making a law, till then at least start giving us taxes on that. So again, the problem here is that we usually avoid these risks. We avoid the risk, we avoid taking decision, because think of it from the bureaucrat point of view. They think that why do I have to take a risk? Ultimately, I will have to pay for it if something wrong happens. I will have to go to the court, so I will not take a risk. That is a big problem. Then fragmentation of function. I gave you an example of Indira Gandhi earlier, how this famous cartoon at the time of Indira Gandhi, that if there's a government responsibility to post a letter, someone will buy the paper, someone will buy the pen, someone will write the letter, someone will buy the envelope, someone will stick the stamp. 6-7 departments will be working just to post the letter. There's a lot of fragmentation of the functions. And when you have these fragmentation of functions, even if one person is absent, even if one department is missing, the entire job will get stuck. All these are issues that we have with the current system of bureaucracy. But again, our bureaucracy is too rigid to change all of a sudden. When there is something has existed for so many years like this, you can't expect to change all of a sudden. Can you expect your grandparents to change all of a sudden because you want them to change? They might not like to say Gangs of Wasseypur with you. They might not want to see the same thing that you do. They might not like to see the Game of Thrones thing that you want. They are different level, right? You can't expect them now change because I want you to change. Because as you said, I will go ahead and change the ministry, right? That is what your aim is. So my suggestion is first go and change your grandparents. It's similar to changing the bureaucracy. If you're successful there, maybe bureaucracy will also change along with you. Okay. I'll take up some of your questions and then we'll take a break before we go ahead. Let me quickly take up some of your questions. Should I switch to weekly webinars, current affair month, current of that? My only suggestion always to the people is when you are trying to skip something, do that, but make sure you use that time for a better thing. If you're just using that time to speak, to just sleep more or go out, then that becomes a problem. If you use your time better, then please go ahead. No issues with that. Vivek is saying misbehave in which way? Misbehave like corruption. Misbehave like influencing the recruitment process. Abhinav was saying, can politicians become members of UPSC? Abhinav, there is no definition of the word politicians. Who is a politician? I contested my head boy elections and won. Am I a politician? No. So your question should be, can MP or MLA become UPSC? That is a question. If that's a question, then no. Because if MP, MLAs have this post, that will be an office of profit. Simple. If your question is just people involved in politics, they can come here. Again, there is no qualification given, so government decides. Then I have a system. I have a question, guys. My pass either ask at the end of the class, or you can mail or ask your mentor, because I can't address your specific question to everyone because it's not related to everyone. Okay, let's respect that. Your generic questions are great. Keep coming in, but bring them either at the end or in the mail or towards a mentor. Let's stick to what we are discussing. Mangalam is saying, what is negative recruitment policy? What is the solution for this? Mangalam, solution is to introduce positive recruitment policy. Problem, as I discussed in detail, is negative recruitment policy means there is no clear-cut idea from the side of the UPSC. What do they want to achieve? What are the qualities they are looking for when they recruit people? So there's not much clarity on that. Those who have a question on GM crops, please ask them in the science class. If you don't know what is GM crops, please go ahead, use your science class, take some time of science teacher also. And you anyways have your mentor, call the mentor, they will ask you. Since this is not a science and tech class, I will not go into what GM crops are. Perfect. Let's take the last break for governance. We will be coming back at 7:10. What are some of the things that you have to keep in mind? The first thing that you are expected to do as a part of your service is be extremely neutral, class neutral, cultural neutral, and political neutral. I hope all of you know political neutral. Political neutral obviously means doesn't matter which party is in power, your advice, your way of working, how you advise them should not depend on that. Be it any party, you may or may not have voted for that party, but you cannot base your decisions based on which party is in power. That's the easiest to understand, political neutrality. Let's talk about the first and the second. First is class neutrality. See, as I said, when you're working as a DM, collector, most of your time will be spent in meeting people who may not be very rich, who may not be very powerful. Most of your time will be spent in meeting people who require help, who may have been discriminated against, and they are looking at you as a ray of hope that you will help them out. Now, this is where you have to ensure that doesn't matter which class of people you are interacting with. It can be the poorest class, it can be the poorest person in your city, it can be a very rich person, it can be someone in the middle. Your behavior is expected to remain neutral and not dependent on that. Most of the people, as you know, would behave in a different manner. It is very common, it is a human trait. You will obviously behave in a different manner if some very rich powerful person comes to your house without telling you, and you'll obviously behave in a different manner if some street beggar comes to your house without telling you. It's very obvious, it's human nature to behave in a very different kind of a manner, right? For one, you will be asking for an autograph, for the other you'll be calling the police. Again, this is where, as a civil servant, you're expected to be neutral in terms of which people you are discussing or which people you are interacting with. Can be very rich, can be very poor, can be powerful, can be weak, but your behavior should remain the same irrespective of all of that. You also have to be culturally neutral. What do you mean by culturally neutral? You all have certain religion, you all have a certain caste, you all come from a certain part of the country, you all have a certain culture. That should never reflect in your working. I'll give you an example. If there are, I hope it doesn't happen, but if there are rights, religious rights in the city where you are working, you will be called that, sir or ma'am, please come, there are riots, two religious groups are trying to kill each other. You belong to one of these two religions. The other religion should also have as much respect for you. They should have as much belief in you that you will handle the matter without any bias. If one of the two groups believes that you will not be unbiased or you will be biased, that will lead to your job becoming very difficult. You cannot base your decision based on your own background, based on your culture, your religion, your caste, your gender, nothing. Your decisions have to be objective, you have to be neutral towards that. So you have to be neutral towards the class of people you are interacting with. You have to be neutral irrespective of what your culture or background is and what is the situation at hand. And you have to be neutral towards the political class also. It doesn't matter. You like the party, you don't like the party, do it after your retirement, but not when your service is going around. Similarly, you are expected to perform all these things. You're expected to follow and implement the rule of law. We have discussed the rule of law earlier as well. Follow the law. If you don't like the law, get the law changed, but you cannot break the law. As the representative of the government, you will be expected to follow each and every law and implement that law also. Follow the code of ethics. So basically, when you become a civil servant, you are given a booklet which tells you how are you expected to perform your duty. It tells you what are you expected to do, how are you expected to greet your seniors, how are you expected to perform, what are you expected to do in front of the people that you interact with. All these are a part of the code of ethics that you have been given or you will be given as a part of your service. You will be trained off also on that. But then when people are not watching over you, many people ignore that. That is what you do not have to do. Follow your code of ethics that have been given to you. Implement government policies and programs as well. I'll give you an example. If you remember, when the COVID-19 vaccination was going on, the government of India made a list of those districts that are falling behind on vaccination for whatever reason. The Prime Minister himself called an online meeting of DMs of all those districts and basically had a very serious discussion that why is it that your district is lagging behind? Why is it that your district's vaccination rate is lower? You have to implement these government programs. So this is also what they do. COVID vaccine, polio vaccination, government's program of Swachh Bharat, all of that has to be implemented by you. You have to show probity and transparency. What is probity? Any idea? What do you mean by this word, probity? Honesty, openness. No, they were not proximity, not proximity. So basically, in simple terms, if you have to define probity means showing moral values that can include honesty, that can include integrity, etc. So showing moral values, be honest, be integral, make sure that you display high moral grounds. This is what probity is. We have discussed about this earlier as well. You have to set an example as a civil servant. You have to be extremely transparent about what you are doing. If you have taken a certain decision, then the people should know the basis on which you have taken a certain decision. If you have decided a certain government policy will go on, you should be transparent about it. The people should not have a doubt in their mind that you are doing it because of some ulterior motive that will create a problem for you. You have to ensure that you have a sense of duty and serve the people. Now, this is both connected. This is both connected. Let's try and understand this in a simple manner. Uh, let's assume when the British were here, when they made the civil services, the British had a different view of the civil services. Those who are asking integrity, don't you remember the Mahatma Gandhi story I told you? Don't you remember those stories? I gave an example of the story, Mahatma Gandhi, the sugar story, the example of integrity. Integrity means only preach what you can follow, as simple as that. Now, when the British were here, if you remember, when the British followed or established their civil services, the idea was not to help the people. The idea was mainly to collect as much money as possible. The idea was to extract as much revenue, and that is how the word collector came into the picture, right? Without that, the word collector would not have come into the picture. After independence, the idea of Indian civil services is very, very, very different. Now, the civil servants are not expected from the government to increase the revenue as much as possible. Now, the civil servants are given the duty, the responsibility to help the poorest section of the society, that section that is dependent on the government and dependent on the officers for some help. You would have seen so many times this kind of news comes in that DM goes and has a lunch in a family which is considered as untouchables or family which is discriminated against, to set an example. Have you seen these kind of news stories? The collector going ahead interacting with those who are, usually discriminated against, to set an example to the entire district. You would have seen all these news stories. All this is a part of your job. Your job is not just to make sure that government schemes are implemented. Your job is also to make sure that the entire area where you have been put in charge, that entire area is becoming better. The class divide, the social divide that exists, all of these are becoming better. All of these are things that you're expected to do. Similarly, in all these things that the civil servants do, there are still challenges that remain. There are some challenges which the government is trying to address. Then there are some challenges that still remain. First big challenge, journalist civil servants. We touched upon this point earlier as well. Most civil servants, especially IAS officers, are called journalists. Why? If an IAS officer, let's say, has worked for 15 years in the service, 20 years in the service, they would not have worked in one special sector where they have gained expertise. No. Maybe 3 years they were in the agriculture ministry. Maybe 2 years they were in the shipping ministry. Maybe 3 years they were in the commerce ministry. Maybe for some years in the civil aviation ministry. So what happens as a result of this is that you have civil servants who have not developed an expertise in any area. They are journalists, like the jack of all trades or jack of few trades, rather than being a master of one. That also is seen as a reason that maybe this is why we don't have a lot of very impressive futuristic policies. Because to have policies which can change the entire dynamic, you need to have people who are experienced and experts in that field. If you don't have people experts in those fields who are making the policies, how will they actually make new policy, or how will they implement policies which are beneficial for everyone? So first problem, it's a journalist civil services. We don't believe in specialization. We believe that one officer having experience of all these different department and ministries will do a better job. Next problem is poor training and evaluation. The government is working on this, and we will discuss this in after half an hour or 45 minutes. The idea is when you become a civil servant, initially you get your training. You get your training in Missouri, everything is fine. Initially, it helps you. But imagine those, for example, who became civil servants in 2000. 23 years of service have already done. India of 2000, India of 2023 is very different, right? All the new technology that has come in, new challenges that have come in, they have not been given the training on that. So in between all the new things that are coming up, how are they training themselves? They don't get off time that take 2 months off, go and train yourself. That doesn't happen. So in between the career, the training that happens is not very effective. This is where the suggestion has always been that even between the career, there should be some training. And government has now done this. We have something called the Karmayogi portal or Karmayogi mission that has been started by the government. I will discuss about it after half an hour, 45 minutes or so. The Karmayogi mission. What exactly is Karmayogi? But government is trying to change this system at least. Have proper training, evaluate the civil servants on how much training are they receiving. Problem of poor incentives. All of us know government jobs would never be able to pay as much as a private job at a higher level would. As a civil servant, you always obviously do not have that much of a salary. We'll discuss that in just a bit. The problem here is even if you are doing your job beyond what is expected of you, there are not much incentives involved. Your promotion depends 99% of times on your tenure. If you have completed these many years, you'll be promoted. If you have not completed these many years, doesn't matter how great a job you may be doing, but you will not be promoted. Promotion has to be based strictly on the number of years. This system is very, very, very rigid. If the government really wants or likes your work, they will not promote you. What they will do is they will transfer you closer to the government so that they can work directly with you, directly ministers can work with you. But the level will not increase. The hierarchical level will not increase before the number of years that you have to complete at each level. That also the problem. There's no incentive of going ahead and doing the extra work, no incentive for setting an example, no incentive for going out of the way. The only incentive is that you feel yourself that I want to do something. But that feeling also goes away when you see other people not working hard, getting the same thing as you are getting. Obviously, you will not be incentivized, you will not be pushed towards doing something good. That also becomes a problem. Other issue is the cadre-based civil service. Now, cadre-based civil service also have its own issues. Biggest issue is the cadres are very strict. Let's say if you have been given Rajasthan cadre, it is very, very, very strict. Your cadre will not be changed unless something really drastic happens. For example, the rule is if you get married to another officer of a different cadre, then one of your cadre will change. Otherwise, you will come to Delhi, and back to same cadre. But your cadre usually does not change unless you have a very compelling reason. The problem with this is, let's assume that there's an officer who is doing a great job in implementing certain initiatives in Rajasthan. Other states may also want to have a similar kind of officer. Other states may want this officer to come to their state also work for some time, but that will not happen because a cadre-based system is extremely rigid. You cannot have officers working in different states. You cannot have the officer at the center and then back to the same cadre. But this switching of cadre is almost next to impossible. Because the problem is, even when you want to, let's say government allows one officer to change the cadre, then there will be thousands of officers who will want to change their cadre. So governments usually never make these exceptions because they know the situation will go out of hand. They don't want to take that situation. That is why the cadre-based system also remains slight problem, because maybe in some states they lack good quality officers at the top. They might want to have officers from some other state, but they are not allowed to. That also remains a big, big, big problem. Apart from this, there is also some other suggestions that you must understand and implement. First, certain level of detachment is required. What do you mean by this? There was a news a few days back. I don't know if you remember this or not. There was a news a few days back. There was a DM who had a very poor old lady in his or her district. He paid the electricity bill for that lady. It was a big news that came in. Everyone was very happy that, oh, such a great job. Do you think it should be done, or is it not great? Do you think it is fine that you start paying electricity bill because you have to help it? You have to help them, right? It looks good, makes good news, good to put on Instagram, right? But is it good? No. You are not supposed to do that. I'll tell you why. I'm not saying that you do not have to do that, and I'll tell you the reason behind it. India is such a huge country. If you are paying electricity bill of one person from your own pocket, you are setting an example. What you are doing is you are then inviting 70, 80 other people to then pay the bill. Now, how will you say no to them because you helped one? Let's say you are a very rich person and you don't care about money. You have a solid background and you pay all of their bill. Okay, that is also fine. Not a problem. But then who is it, or you are making it very difficult for someone who will come in your post after that? If you are paying electricity bill of everyone, what about the other person who will come to your post when you get transferred? Everyone will expect now this person will pay the bill. So what are you doing? You are actually making it very difficult for others to occupy this post. That should not be done. This is the problem here. Don't have that kind of attachment. You have to be detached. Because you might think, oh, it is good, people love me, but as that is good for politicians. As a civil servant, you're not supposed to build your personal fan base, because you need to be detached. It is not what is expected of you. And the solution is not you giving the bill one time, right? Solution is to have a permanent kind of a solution. See if some government team, government initiative can help them or not. But you just helping them by saying, I will pay the bill, doesn't really mean there's a solution to that. So you need to be detached. You should not personalize the position. The same thing. You have seen many times, not many times, sometimes, when an officer is transferred, people start protesting that, no, he's such a good officer. I will not let him go. Please don't transfer him. Right? You hear these kind of news and then you think, I will also become such kind of an officer. Such officer that if I'm transferred, people will just be on the road. People will be like, no, I will not this car go over my dead body, right? You have those dreams that I will also become such an officer. People will love me. Please don't do that. Again, you are not supposed to personalize the position, meaning that you are making it very difficult for someone next coming into your place. As a civil servant, your duty is to make the people believe that it is your post that is helping them, not you individually. It is your post that is going ahead and helping them. It's not that someone else will come to the post, they will not help you. It is your duty to make them believe that anyone sitting at this post will do the same thing. It's not happening because of you. That will only happen if you don't personalize the position. If you start personalizing it, people will think you are the only one responsible. If you go, something wrong will happen. So you are creating a very bad and a difficult environment for someone coming in after you. For the same reason, don't have very strong or very close ties, very personal ties with senior, subordinate, etc. For example, you send a WhatsApp to your senior every morning, sir, good morning, and with a GIF. Sometimes the flower is smiling, sometimes there is good morning coming in, flying over, and then someone else will come into your post, and your senior will say, the person before you, he used to send all these good night, good morning messages. You are not that great. You are not that great. So, what are you doing? You are actually creating this problem. Again, not having strong ties doesn't mean that you don't work with them. Work properly, but work professionally. If you are doing something that is going beyond your duty, which you know will make it difficult for others to come in, that then creates a problem. Again, don't compare that by saying that don't be kind to people. Be kind to people, be good to people. But if you make them believe that I am doing this only, next one coming in, they will not do it, vote for me, then it becomes a problem. You have to be kind to people and make them believe that it is happening because of your post and not because you are the ones who's running the post. There's a difference between the two. And you will learn that difference when you go on the job. Don't worry, UPSC will not ask you a difference right now. But you have to understand that rather than thinking that I will make it everything about myself, because that is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be behind the curtains. These days, everyone wants to stay in front of the curtains anyway. You see IAS officers making videos, putting those videos on social media. That is a kind of an attempt to create a fan base. Again, I am not saying that that should not be allowed, but again, your responsibility as a bureaucrat, as a civil servant, is always to stay behind the curtain rather than going ahead and making yourself visible, making the people believe that it is you who are doing it, not your post. That also is a big problem that you are not supposed to do. There are other reasons why there are limitations in how the All India services work. There is regular political interference. All of you know about this. I don't need to go into detail of this. You all know the names of Ashok Khemka. You all know how frequent transfers have happened. Many of you read this in the paper that politicians start putting pressure on the bureaucrats. But somewhere, somehow, you have this image in your mind that when I become an IAS officer, I will change everything. No politician will be able to pressurize me because I am different. I will charm them in such a way that, oh, they will say, sir, where were you? Ma'am, we were waiting for you, right? Many of you have this image. It's good to have those images. I am not saying that you should not. But again, you have to understand that this is how the real world works. From a cocooned life, when you go to a real world, this is how the challenges will be. There will be political interference, and you will have to see if you can navigate them. The other problem is all India service issue. The all India services officers, like the IAS officers, are under dual control of the center and the states. Usually, when the states are run by the opposition party, the problem becomes even bigger. West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, these are examples of where you will see the IAS officers, especially the IPS officers, also having a very hard time, not understanding whom to listen to. Orders given by the states are different, orders given by the center are different. That weakens the position also. That weakens the position of the All India Services officers. This is where the political class has to make sure that they don't interfere in the working. Also, arbitrary transfer, short tenures, again, understandable. You don't listen to the ministers, you will be transferred easily. You don't listen to them, you'll have a very short tenure at any position. Because ultimately, the politicians at the end of the day want to take decisions that will ensure their victory in the next elections. This is their primary objective and not yours. Your objective is the welfare of the people. Their objective is to have people believe that in the next 5 years we'll change your life. So again, these may not match every single time. This is where the problem starts, and this might lead to ministers not liking you, transferring you, or not having you at one position for a long time. Apart from this, there are other reasons also because of which we have not been able to tackle all these problems. Poor capacity building and performance evaluation. These are the things that we will discuss later on at the end of the class, because the government is working on these two through, as I said, the Karmayogi mission. Government of India's Karmayogi mission is a part of this solution only, to have an online platform for building skills, building more capacity, and evaluating how they are performing. So these two things the government is focusing on. We also have corruption. Corruption again is something that we have discussed in entire module. The problem of corruption still remains. We have still seen time and time again the news stories coming in of people being involved in corruption. Then there's a problem of wage compression. It is very obvious and should be known to every one of you. As a civil servant, it's not that you get a bad salary, you get a decent salary. But you cannot compare that with the private sector. What you get are other benefits which are non-monetary benefits. So as a civil servant, you will get a very good house to live without any rent. You will get a couple of servants, you'll get a driver, you'll get a government car. Your official electricity will not be, the paid bill will not be paid by you, those kind of things. But the cash that you get at the end of the month may not be that high as someone at a senior level in the private sector may be earning. Someone at a senior level in a private sector may be earning much, much more than what you're earning in the government sector. So that is a decision that you have to take, because this is not something which is a secret. If you have started to prepare for the exam, you can't say after you become an IAS, oh, I did not know I was getting that salary, now I want to quit. No, this is all open. You know what the salaries are, you know what the benefits are, as simple as that. If you don't know, download the UPSC notification, it tells about the salary, so you will know about it. Anyways, you have now paid the fee, so it's too late for you to see. But anyway, so basically, there is no doubt over the fact that monetarily not the most engaging thing. But again, it's not that the salary is low. Many people have a misconception that there's a low salary. No, the salary is not low. Salary is very decent to have a very good quality of life. There is no IAS also who will say, I don't have money, man. By the 30th of every month, I don't have any money left. I can't buy a phone. I can't buy a laptop. No, nothing like that happens. Okay, that is too much of an extreme. That will not happen. You come in and you do pretty good job. But again, expecting that I will be crores and crores of crores in just a few months, even at the end of the tenure, crores of crores of crores, that will not happen. That's not going to happen. If that is your aim, sorry, you have entered the wrong area. Maybe you will go somewhere else. Now, what are the reforms that have been introduced, or what are the reforms that need to be introduced? There are reforms mainly in three areas that are being suggested here. First, reform in recruitment. How can we change it? How are we changing it? Reforms in training and reforms in performance appraisal. These are the three suggested reforms, or reforms in these three different categories that can change the civil services for the better. Let's look at the first, reforms in recruitment. Lateral entry, we will discuss in about 10 minutes from now. What is lateral entry, etc. It has been done now. We'll discuss in just a bit, so just wait for that. Other reform is separating technical service from the journalist service. As I said earlier as well, there are some services which would be better served if people have that background. Revenue service, audit and account service. These are some technical services where if you have a background in these things, you will obviously be able to perform better as compared to those who don't have a background. There's no rocket science in that. The suggestion is maybe have this as separate from the journalist service. Journalist where you don't need to have that particular domain knowledge, IAS, etc. is a journalist service. Have that separately so that people having specific background can come in and make a better impact. Change the exam pattern. This is something that we discussed in detail in the second ARC chapter. This is the second ARC recommendation report. We had discussed that in detail, module number 6. If you have not seen that, go ahead and see that as well. Then the reforms required in training. Let's see what are the reforms in training that have been suggested. First, training for all. What does it mean? So again, many of you might not know this. When you, let's say, clear the civil service examination, you go to Mussoorie, you reach Mussoorie, there is just for a few days in the beginning, there is an induction for a few days. After that, different people go to different places for training. And the training period is also very different. So IAS officers stay in Mussoorie. They will, or their training will continue there. IPS officers, their academies in Hyderabad, they go to Hyderabad. Foreign services officers, their academies in Delhi, they go to Delhi. Revenue service, mostly Faridabad, their training will be in Faridabad. So what happens is, there are different training that is given to different services. And when you come to lower services, the training is very short. So the training is also very different. For IAS, the training will be much more elaborate. For IPS, different type of training, physical training is required. Foreign services, diplomacy, language skills are required. That is different. So basically, you will see training is different for different people. Some of them have very short training. So suggestion is have elaborate training for all the services. Having elaborate training for all the services rather than just for a few services. Not just focus on the IAS, IPS, but all the services should be given proper elaborate training. Link content according to the present requirements. The present challenges such as cryptocurrency, cyber crimes, AI, all these are challenges that are now coming up in the past few years. The policies that the government makes have to be focused on them. The training also cannot be the same as earlier. The training also has to be according to that. You cannot just train the people in the same curriculum time and time again. Link training to career progression as well. For example, the government should ask the civil servants, what is your plan? Let's say a government servant says, I want to go ahead and work in the agriculture ministry. I like this sector. So their training should be in this. Someone says, I want to work in the finance ministry. Their training should be for that. Someone says, I want to work in the education ministry. Someone says, science and tech ministry. Whatever your preferences are, whatever your goals are about your career, the training should be about that. No, Sahil, these have not been implemented. These are suggestions that you can give. That the training should be regarding that. Right now, there is no bar because you are not trained according to different sectors right now. Your training is a very generalized training. It's not that you are asked which ministry do you want to work, because you can be shifted to any ministry. Other suggestion, training should be in soft skills as well. Soft skills means talking to the people, discussing something, how to interact, how to sit, how to stand, every single thing. That is a part of soft skill. Soft skill is something that people ignore quite a lot. As a civil servant, you would be interacting with a lot of people, especially when you work at the state level. And you have to know how to listen to people. Listening is a big part of it. How to make the people believe that you are listening to them. How the people should have a confidence that yes, you care about them. All that is a part of soft skill training. That also should be the point of focus. Again, all these are suggestions. They have not been implemented so far. These are suggestions. Similarly, suggestions for performance appraisal means how should the government give incentives or decide on promotion, etc. The government should give them targets and see who has achieved a target. For example, let's say government should say every DM has to ensure 90% vaccination of COVID at least in your district. Let's say government should say there should be zero dengue cases in your district. There should be, let's say, zero polio cases in your district. These are quantifiable targets. Quantifiable is something that you can actually count or measure. Something that you can count that this has been done, this has not been done. Not just based on what you think, all on the basis of numbers. So the target should be given by the government, and on the basis of that, performance incentive should be given. Your performance should bring your incentive. Incentive can be in many forms. It can be in the form of money. It can be in the form of promotion. It can be in the form of a good posting. It may even be in the form of, let's say, you getting your home cadre, which many people want. So again, the government should link performance to incentive, and the government should have feedback on people as well. Right now, for every officer, their senior prepares a report, gives it to the government. How much or how have you worked? How have you not worked? But as an IAS officer, people don't give feedback about you. People of the district, for example, are not asked, how did you perform? Was there some problem? Was there some issue in the working of the DM or the collector? No, nothing like that happens. The suggestion is to have better feedback from the people from multiple sources. People that the officer is working with, people that they're interacting with, all of these things should be taken into consideration, and then they should get a feedback. These are again suggestions. Suggestions in how recruitment should change, suggestion in how the training should change, and the suggestion in how the performance appraisal should also change. Now coming to the idea which we skipped just a few minutes back, the idea of lateral entry. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What does it mean? How does it work? Let's try and understand this. India has introduced lateral entry, so it is a fact now. Now, what do you mean by this? Usually, if you want to become an IAS officer, a few years back, the only way to become an IAS officer was prepare for the examination where you are preparing, clear the exam, become an IAS officer. There was no other way to become an IAS officer earlier. The suggestion here is, why not have people who are experts from the field come in, just give an interview, no written, nothing, and they will be made IAS officers for a short duration to do a good job, and then they can leave. I will give you an example. Okay, let's take an example. So government of India has this problem that BSNL is going into huge losses. No matter what the government does, BSNL is into losses. So government wants to revive that. So what can the government do? The government can see who is working at Jio or Airtel for a long time. Let's say there's someone working in Airtel for a long time who has the expertise, who has been working for 15 years. Government may ask him that you come join our telecom ministry for 3 years or 5 years. We will give you the post of joint secretary. You come, work for 5 years, revive BSNL, you will be an IAS officer, and then you can go back. This is called lateral entry in simple terms. Not giving the exam, not becoming IAS through the examination, coming midway through the interview just because you have an expertise in that field so that you can bring in a change. This was an idea. It's a very old idea. It's not a new idea, but for a very long time, it could not be implemented. Why was it not implemented? Because the IAS officers hated it. The IAS officer hated it, as simple as that. Why? See, look at the IAS officers. Why would they want someone from outside to come in and take the same rank that they have, right? They worked so hard for it. Just imagine, you people are not even IAS officers, and you even don't like this idea. You're not even IAS officer, and even now you are saying, oh, very bad idea. You're not even an IAS officer right now. So think about them who have become IAS officers, who have cleared the exam, who have worked so hard to reach at that level. Why would they want to share that with anyone? They would think that our post is going to someone else. So for many years, a bureaucracy objected to this idea, and no government wants to anger their bureaucracy, so they just kept on delaying it. But now, a few years back, the government did implement this idea. Now, please understand, when this lateral entry happens, it's not a big lateral entry. For example, the government may invite 10 people only, 12 people only. So it's not that hundreds are coming in. First, remember that part. Especially, secondly, it's for a short time, it's not for entire duration. Thirdly, you might be happy to know, I don't know if you would be happy to know, but this idea has not been successful. So be happy, don't worry about that. Why they have not been successful? Many people have already resigned, those who came into lateral entry. For various reasons, I will discuss those reasons also. Let me first let me first tell you how does it usually work. So usually, again, as I said, on the basis of your tenure, you get promotion. So usually, after completing 17 years in the service, you usually get to the joint secretary level. So joint secretary is usually about 17 years of service. You remain at that level for about 10 years. Lump sum age, depending upon the age, depends upon at what time or at what age you cleared the exam. But lump sum age of a joint secretary on an average in India is 45. Lump sum, 45 years of age would be joint secretary when you have. This is what the government has decided. I'll show you an ad so that you can actually understand. I'll come back to this. See this. So this was an ad the government basically gave in 2021 about lateral entry. See this. Lateral entry of joint secretary and director level post on contract basis. It says the government is inviting in applications for a period of 3 years, extendable to 5 years. You will work as joint secretary in the Department of Agriculture, Cooperation, Farmer Welfare. Qualification criteria, you have a master's degree in agriculture and you should have 15 years of experience, as you can see, in any of these fields: agriculture, soil, crops, insurance, etc. This is an example. Government may change this depending upon how they want to run this, but it depends on the government. It's a short-term thing, 3 years, extendable to 5 years if both of them agree. But this has not been successful. The reason being, as I said, many of them have resigned already. They have not been able to bring in a change. Why? Let's first talk about the advantages. What is the advantage that the government is thinking of with lateral entry? Obviously, they will bring in the specialized knowledge. Person working with Jio, Airtel for so many years, they know how the system works. They can introduce reforms. They can fill in that gap. Why? Because in India, we have generalized civil servants. We will have specialists on behalf of or in place of them, so they'll fill in the gap. They might bring a change in the work culture as well. The work culture, again, in the government services is not very efficient. People have this belief that even if they are not doing the job properly, even if they are delaying it somewhere, that nothing would happen to their career, it will just go on. So maybe introducing people from outside may have a positive impact on better work culture. And participatory governance, meaning that participation of private sector in running the government. Government is taking in private participation as well, private experts being called in. Now, it's not that the government has not done this earlier. The government in other ways has already done this without announcing it to the world. For example, I'll give you a simple example. Who was the head of the UIDAI when Aadhaar system was launched? Who was heading this? Any idea? When the government launched this Aadhaar system, who was heading this? Any idea? UIDAI. Okay, don't Google, I'll tell you. Who was the head of this? Nandan Nilekani. Nandan Nilekani was handling it. Government asked him to come in and head this. Who is Nandan Nilekani? One of the founders of Infosys. So he came in to head that. So government already does this without announcing it to the world. There's a little entry, this and that. If they really want experts coming in, they bring them and give them a lot of position that you do this and do that. Now the government is trying to basically make it more open, have a proper notification coming in. But again, this private participation in the running of the government is not a new thing. Some people are brought in. For example, when Air India used to be a government of India enterprise, even then, for running Air India, government did bring in private sector experts, and they were not able to do anything because again, it's not easy to change how the government system works. So again, it's not that we are doing it for the first time. We already have had done this, as that now we are doing it proper notification, etc. What are the arguments against lateral entry? Why do people not like it? Outsourcing expertise. You are bringing someone from the private sector to come in the government, tell him everything about the government, tell him all the secrets, and the person after 3 years will go back and take back all the expertise. That is a problem. Why? Because you don't know if the person is coming to help the public or with the profit motive. The person may come in for 3 years and let me learn everything how government works. Then I will go back in the private sector, tell my boss double or triple my salary, and I will tell you government secrets. That can happen because you can't stop them. As an IAS officer, when they work as joint secretary, they will get to know the entire system of the government, weaknesses, problems, and they can exploit that later on. That becomes a big problem. How do you actually ensure that people are coming in for public service and not profit? Cumbersome decision making process. Just imagining, just like you are saying, that I will go and change the system. Similarly, the bureaucrat, these people come in thinking I will change the system, and then they think they get to know, oh, it's not that easy, because the decision making process of the government does not change for one individual. If you go in and thinking I will introduce new things, civil servants are not sitting waiting for you that, oh, Mr. has come in, please come in, we are waiting for you. That also becomes a big problem. That the decision making process, you may want to introduce many reforms, but you alone will not be doing it. You will have a team who is already government servant team. They may not want to go so fast on the reforms that you are introducing. Similarly, there is conflict of interest. Again, someone working for Airtel for 15 years, all of a sudden coming in for BSNL, you will never be sure if they are working in the interest of Airtel only or BSNL. Because after some time, they have to go back. Either you make them permanent in the government only, you are not doing that. You're asking them come for 3 years only, come and then go. So when they go back, they will have to see what is their future after 3 years, right? They already have to prepare for that. So again, there is a conflict of interest that arises. That are you working in the interest of your own future, or are you working in the interest of the government? That also remains a big issue. This is why the lateral entry idea has not been that successful. The second ARC has also suggested what should be the code of ethics that every civil servant must follow. These are the words that we have discussed earlier in great detail. I don't think I need to go into detail of all of these. We have discussed about integrity, meaning preach all the value or follow all the values that you're preaching. Be impartial to the public. Be committed to public service rather than thinking of your own self-interest. Be devoted to the duty that you have been given. Show exemplary behavior. Not that after 6 p.m. my office is over, now on the rooftop I'm partying. Let anyone see. No. You have to be at your job 24/7. Show exemplary behavior. And you have to be openly accountable. We have discussed about accountability in great detail. Accountability means answerability. Be answerable if something goes wrong. If because of your decision something went wrong, be answerable. Come out in the open, explain it to people. All these are the code of ethics that the civil servants must follow as per the second ARC. This is what they are supposed to follow. Again, if they don't, it's not that they will be punished. If they are breaking a law, then they will be punished. But just because they are not showing exemplary behavior doesn't mean that they will be punished. But this is what the second ARC has expected out of them. Anjan is saying, why can't an officer party as his private life? Anjan, I'm not saying don't party. Do whatever you want. But imagine after 6 a.m., after 6 p.m., on the rooftop, You are partying, loud music, there's drinking going on. Now think about the image that people would have. Because understand this, you are in a job that is 24/7, you have to show exemplary behavior. And the job that you will have a lot of scope of people misinterpreting what you are doing. I am not saying you should not do this, you should not do that. Yeah, Anjali, thank you for this example. So Anjali has reminded me of an example of Partygate. Uh, when UK was going through this torrid COVID-19 crisis, at that time, their president, no, sorry, their prime minister, Mr. Johnson, was basically having a great party with his staff. Nothing wrong, no corruption, nothing. But the allegation was that there was party going on. Boris Johnson, when his staff was partying, people were dying. That led to him even resigning at the end of the day. Not that he did something illegal, but he was not showing exemplary behavior. So that becomes a big problem around the entire country. It's everywhere. And again, if you think that this is something that you did not know, now you will not prepare for IAS. Sorry, maybe you can have your party closed door, no cameras, maybe that will work. But again, that's an expectation that the ARC has. The government also doesn't respect ARC recommendations. Maybe you can also reject it, thinking that government has also rejected it. So your decision. Anyway, we have a couple of topics remaining. First, the topic that is remaining is Mission Karmayogi. This is an initiative started by the government of India to solve that problem of IAS officers or civil servants not getting enough training. Let's see what this idea is. Basically, this is an online portal which the government of India has started, where there will be a lot of online courses for the civil servants to see and learn from. These courses will be made by experts. Let's say IIM Ahmedabad professor in finance would make a course on finance. Any agriculture expert will make a course on agriculture. Tech expert might make a course on blockchain, etc. As civil servants, you will be expected to watch those courses and develop your expertise. That is the initial idea of Mission Karmayogi, an online portal for your learning, for your skill development. The government has now expanded this idea that now this online portal will not just be for your learning courses, it will also be used for other purposes. Let's say you have to apply for a leave from the government, you can apply through that portal. You want to submit an application to the government, you can submit it through that portal. So it's a specific portal made for civil servants for their training, upskilling, and to have their official work like posting, vacancies, leave application, salary, etc. All of them. That together is called Mission Karmayogi. It is a part of National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building to build more skills with the government. Now, you don't have to remember this. What is it that they're trying to do? I will tell you one by one what are the parts of Mission Karmayogi, how is it working. Let's see how Mission Karmayogi works. Who is at the very top, who is at the bottom, how are the different parts. At the very top, we have the Prime Minister's Human Resource Council at the very top. What do? They are the final authority to decide whether a specific course will be listed or not. They are the ones who keep a track of how many people are pursuing the course, which civil servant is doing a good job, which civil servant is not seeing the courses. So they are the final authority sitting at the very top. It will have Prime Minister, Chief Ministers, Cabinet Ministers, and even people from industry and academicians. At the very top, PM Human Resource Council to take the final decision on how the Mission Karmayogi portal is running, keeping a track of officers, etc. Below them, we will have Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit. Cabinet Secretary, as you should know, is the highest ranked civil servant in the country. Highest ranked civil servant in the country. Highest ranked IAS officer in the country. Whoever is the Cabinet Secretary automatically is considered as the head of all the IAS officers in the country. We have Cabinet Secretary at the center level. Similarly, at the state level, we have the Chief Secretary. So if someone is a chief secretary of, let's say, Tamil Nadu, that means that officer is the highest officer in Tamil Nadu. So chief secretary is at the state level, cabinet secretary is at the center level, the highest position. So below the Prime Minister Human Resource Council, that is at the top. At second place, we have the Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit. They will monitor the progress of the program. They will keep on passing on the message to the Human Resource Council. They will coordinate with different authorities. What are the different types of courses that you require? What new courses should be put in here? What are the changes that should be imposed? So they will be the brain of this entire program. Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit, they will handle the execution of all the plans. The portal will be called the Karmayogi portal. It's an online training portal. As I said, it is about continuous training on your domain areas. Let's say you're working in the science and tech ministry. You want to make a policy. Government has told you to make a policy on cryptocurrency after 3 months. So you, in these 3 months, what do? You upskill yourself. You watch courses on cryptocurrency. You want to know more. That is how it will work. So it will give you specific training on those areas. You can develop your skill. And then, as I said, the portal is not just about skill development. You can use it for your work assignments, vacancies, etc. All that will also be integrated later on. Like, for example, any private organization that you work with. So, for example, we work in Byju's. So we have an online portal where we input our attendance, where we have, if you have to apply for a leave, we apply there for a leave. If we have to send any letter, etc., we apply through that portal. So private sector usually has that. Government also is trying to make the Karmayogi portal the same manner. Not just skill development, but also making sure that they are going ahead and applying for vacancies, etc. Then we have the Capacity Building Commission. They are the ones who will do the real job. So at the very top again, we have the Prime Minister's Human Resource Council. Second place, we have the Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit. They will coordinate amongst everyone. At the third place, we have the Capacity Building Commission. They will be the one who will actually make the courses. They will bring in experts, let's say from IIM Ahmedabad or any university that they want. They will ask them to prepare courses and get the courses uploaded. So they will prepare courses with the help of experts, upload these courses, build plans for future expansion. So their plans will be given to Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit. They will take the final call from the PM Human Resource Council. This is how the plan of the government is to run Mission Karmayogi. It has already started, by the way. Right now, it is used for capacity building, for skill development, etc. Right now, it is not being used as such for vacancy and leave application, but it will be used for that later on. These are the functions that this capacity building commission performs. As I said, making resources like videos, etc., lessons, supervising the role of training institutions. So those institutions that will be called in to train, to make courses like IIMs, IITs, IISc, etc., set the norms and rules for training program of the civil servants. They will analyze the data and they will prepare annual report also. What kind of annual report? For example, they will prepare annual report that from Madhya Pradesh cadre, most IAS officers attended the course. Let's say from Rajasthan cadre, least number of officers attended the course. Or they'll prepare a report that which officer is consistently doing the course better, which officer is consistently doing this in a worse manner, whatever. So that based on these data points, the government can decide about the posting of the officer, taking decision, let's say transfer of the officer or punishing the officer, whatever. So this is the objective. Basically, as you can see, your stage of giving the examination does not end after UPSC. The government has one more examination set for you, so be happy. Don't think, as your parents say, just prepare for this and your life is set. No. Now, even after you prepare for UPSC, your life is not set because the government will keep taking this examination. So, yes. Labdi, no, you cannot see this course until you become the IAS officer. The best part is yet to come. The best part is who pays for the platform to run? You, my dear friend, you will pay for the platform to run. Because you're coming here to change the system. So that is how you change the system. So, my dear friends, you will pay for the system provided that you become an IAS officer. 431 rupees per year will be deducted from your salary. Okay? 431 rupees per year will be deducted from your salary and not from others. If you become an IAS officer, it will go from your pocket to make it sustainable, to make it running properly. Because running these platforms requires money, right? So who will pay? Obviously, you will pay because you want to change the system. Okay. So, anyways, it will be you who will be paying it. It will be controlled by the government of India. The government of India is not spending any money because it's your skill development. So, obviously, you will have to pay for that. It will be used to monitor and evaluate. Basically, the Prime Minister himself will have a dashboard with all the information about your annual score, department-wise score. You will also have information about which state is performing well, which state officers are skipping this, who is starting the course and skipping to the end. Everything he will know. So, see, ignore this at your own risk. Okay? Annual reports will be given. It will be seen throughout the year what was your performance. All of that will be done through this platform. So again, not an easy thing to become an IAS officer till now, and now not an easy thing to even remain an IAS officer. Earlier, getting into service was difficult. Now, even remaining in the service is difficult. But again, we are here to change the system, so no worries. We will change the system. That is how the system is changing. So you should be glad, right? Anyway, so that is how your monitoring and evaluation will happen and keep on happening. Now, the last thing that I want to discuss before we wrap up governance and take up some of your questions. The last thing that I want to discuss, which was in the news about a year back, is something called the IAS cadre rule. Let me tell you the story behind it so that you can understand what is the story. Now, as I told you earlier also, central government requires IAS officers from the states. So usually what happens? Usually, let us assume the central government requires 50 IAS officers, okay? So central government will ask some states, let's say central government will ask, let's say West Bengal, that can you please send 10 officers? So usually what is the rule? The rule is first state government will think whether they have extra officers, can they send or not. Then the West Bengal government will ask their IAS officers on the WhatsApp group of all the IAS officers, they will send which of you wants to go to central government. So those who raise their hand that I want to go to central government, usually they are sent, they are transferred. This is the usual thing, that the central government asks the state governments. The state government then pass on the message to the officers. Those who voluntarily say that I want to go, those people are taken up voluntarily again, and on the basis of that, you go to central deputation. Now what is happening? The problem is that now states don't want to send their officers to the center. States say that we don't have enough officers, we can't send them to center. And the issue becomes even bigger when the states are run by the opposition parties. So the most recent incident was of West Bengal, although it has already happened earlier in Tamil Nadu also. The most recent incident was West Bengal. The government of India said that Chief Secretary of West Bengal, highest IAS also West Bengal, should come to center. He said, I will not come. Center government issued an order that you have to come or you will be dismissed. So what did he do? He resigned from the position. One day before retirement, he resigned and then he joined the political party TMC. He became a personal secretary of Mamata Banerjee. Now, this angered the government of India. So what the government of India did? Government of India changed the IAS cadre rules. What was the change? The government of India said that now the government of India will take the final call. No asking from the state, no asking from the center, we will take the final call. When the government of India changed this rule about a year back, there was a lot of protest by the states and by the IAS officers also. Because earlier, you were asking the IAS officers, do you want to go or not? If yes, okay. Now, like school children, you are forcing them to come. So when the government of India saw a lot of protests from the states don't matter to them, leave them. But a lot of officers protesting against the government that no, we can't go. The government decided to take back the rules. So long story short, we have not had the new rules implemented. Government has taken back the new rules. We are still at the same level once again. We are at the same level once again. The old rules still exist. But again, this was a matter of great debate. This is the process that is followed. That is followed for officers to be deputed from the states to the center. It's a consultative process. IAS officers who are on offer, please remember, who are on offer, who want to go to center, usually those are chosen. We don't really have a case where central government can force the officers. This is the usual process. States also concur that, okay, I will send those officers, and that is how it matters. But there have been many issues with this, and I'll give you some examples. West Bengal is a very recent example. It started about 20 years back in Tamil Nadu. 2001, center government transferred some IPS officers of Tamil Nadu to the center government, saying that no, we want these officers. Again, because there was the DMK party in Tamil Nadu opposite to the BJP, they just transferred them. Tamil Nadu government obviously did not like it, so it became a big issue. The government of India did similar kind of a thing now with West Bengal. December 2023, IPS officers were transferred without even asking them. 2021 May, IAS officers were transferred without asking them, and this became a big issue. Now, what does the central government say? Central government says that we need officers to run the central government. We don't have enough officers to run the central government. From where will we get them? Now, the problem is in India, you may be surprised to know this, in India, we have shortage of IAS officers. Before you ask me, why is the government not recruiting more officers? I don't know. I am not from the government. Many people have asked the government, why are you not recruiting more? Government says no. Government says we recruit 180 IAS officers every year. 180 is good enough. But on the other hand, there are vacancies also, and that is not being filled. That is a big problem. Center wants the officers, the states will not let them. States want the officer, the center will not let them. But somehow the center is not even increasing the number of officers being recruited. So again, spend 10 rupees, ask the government, why are you not doing it? And maybe if you get a reply, send it to me also, although I will not give you 10 rupees. But if you get a reply, maybe tell it to me also, so that I can tell in the next batch at least what is the answer to this. So anyway, so basically, the government of India requires officers at the center level. Officers are not willing to come. Why? Again, see, very few people after spending 10-15 years in the state want to go to central deputation, because they think in the state they have made a name for themselves, they have made connections, they have a lot of power. When they go to center, again start from a lower position. Center again has so many people. So how you are going to go and display all that power? So many officers don't really want to go there. Right now in the government of India, about 40% of the posts at the joint secretary level and 60% posts at the deputy secretary level, all these require IAS officers. But again, many of these remain vacant. You don't have to remember these numbers. Don't worry. You can forget these numbers. Just remember the issue here. The issue of center versus state. I have some data for you, but this is a data that the government presented only till 2021. The data was that out of 6,709 IAS officers, only 445 are working with the center government. So again, the number of officers working with the center government is much lower. And see, it has only declined. In 2014, the number of officers with the center government was 651. and now it has declined to 445. So number of IAS officers wanting to work for the center government has come down considerably. That is a big problem. So why is center government again not increasing the recruitment numbers? I don't know. I wish I knew the answer, but I don't know. And I really doubt in your RTI also they will tell you, because in RTI they reply with facts and not their opinion. There was a question asked from the government of India just a few years back, just a few months back in the parliament. Why are you not increasing IAS? They said no, 180 is good enough. We'll stick to that. We will not go ahead and increase the number of officers. So that still remains a big problem that has not been solved. I think the last slide, the issues with the proposed amendment. Again, proposed amendment has not been implemented so far. So please do remember this. It might be implemented between today and the day that you give the exam. That becomes your responsibility. But at least so far, it has not been implemented. First issue, rights of the states are going away. You are forcing the states to give the IAS officers even if they don't want to. Against cooperative federalism again, rather than cooperating with the states, helping states and the center work together, you are actually forcing the states to give away their best officers. Officers are also neglected even if they say no. Remember that famous no means no. When the government itself is not understanding no means no, then how do you expect the people to understand on the ground? So the concept of no means no has gone up for a toss. Political misuse, as we have seen in many cases, center government doesn't do these kind of things with the states where they have their own party's government. Center government does these things with only those states where they have opposite party governments, and that becomes a big problem. And in the end, it may decline the sheen of all India service. Means people may want to go away from all India service because of center versus state issue. Many of them might say it's better to go to central service only. Let me not opt for a all India service because I will always be stuck between center and the state. Let me go away and take a central service. That also is a big issue. All of these issues exist with the proposed amendments, and that is why we still have an issue. Okay. So in the end, I have a couple of practice questions for you. Let's do this, and I will take some of your questions after that, and then we'll wrap up governance. Okay. So question number 1 on your screen. 7% people, amazing job. None of these is correct. How? Number 1, is it all the members or half of the members? Half of the members and not all the members. So first, wrong. Second one, Joint Public Service Commission, 62 years and not 65. Third one is where many people have this confusion. The UPSC may on request of a state, no, on request of 2 or more states. On request of 2 or more states. I will quickly see if I can go back to that slide if I remember. Just a second. I'll just come here, just a second. Mandatory functions. Where were we? It's a, yeah, come here. See this. This is what we asked. Specifically this. 2 or more states, not 1. That remains a big problem. Okay. That is why all these 3 are wrong. The answer would be D. One more question. One more question. Read this carefully. Let me know once you have. And your time is up. 32% people are correct. All of these are correct. All of these are correct. In this PPT, if you go to the slide when The heading is advisory functions. All these three are mentioned exactly like this. All these three are mentioned exactly like this. When you go to the PPT in the advisory function, I just showed it to you. All these are absolutely true. They have to advise the government on how to recruit for other civil services posts, other civil posts if they want, how to make appointment, transfer, etc., how to take disciplinary action. All of these are true. This, for once and for all, brings an end to governance. Let's see the leaderboard very quickly.